I would like to know a little bit about you so that I can understand whom I'm training. So I know your name already. I would like to start with Marilyn. So Marilyn, can you tell me about your industry and what is your current role and what is your
Sure.
experience in the project management?
Sure. So I have about 20 years of project management experience as well.
Okay, great,
And
great, good.
yeah, for the past few years, though, I've been a director of project management office.
Okay,
And right now, I'm actually going in business for myself with my husband doing consulting. So
okay.
more on the ground project management. So I'm in IT, and I also do a lot of human resources, so non-IT and IT projects.
Okay, okay, great.
And my experience with project, I was um, fairly versed in 2007, but since being in management role, I haven't had a lot of hands-on, so I'm really looking forward to learning 2013 in particular, but also dusting off my skills that are a little bit stale. So thank you.
Okay, great. So it's good to know that you already used it, and I believe that you will find it highly refreshing and useful to know the new feature of the 2030, and you will be able to clear anything. I mean, any kind of doubts that you might have, or you might have lost some of the knowledge, so you can have it topped up. Okay, good. And Kaustav, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I'm actually from the real estate sector,
Okay,
and uh, and I'm joining my own family business currently.
okay, good.
So we're setting up our planning division,
Okay, okay.
and the planning division uses the Microsoft project
Hmm.
software excessively. So to
Hmm.
understand what they are presenting to me, I need a perspective on how the software functions.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, great. So let's start this training with some basics of the project management, and then we will move into the Microsoft project very quickly. Okay. So let's move to the next slide. So I believe that you have this prerequisites, and the training topics will be going like this in this sequence, that is introduction to project and project management, introduction to Microsoft Project 2013. Then you will learn how to define the task, how to define the resources, and how to assign the resources to task. And then you will learn how to format the project details. And then I have embedded a case study here. So case study would be like there will be a sort of a, a practical exercise where you will be where you will be creating a complete project plan from raw data. And then after that we will learn how to set the baseline and track the project progress. Then we will learn viewing and printing reports. And then I will also tell you how to work with multiple projects where you can share resources between multiple projects and make sure that all the projects they have that all the resources which are leveled. Okay, so the resources are available across all the projects, and then we will also share some cool tips and tricks. So this is the outline for the training. So so there are the learning objectives, new features of Microsoft Project 2013. So this is relevant for those who have been upgrading from either 2007 or 2010. So they can see that what has changed since that time and how to manage projects effectively using Microsoft Project. Then understand how to list and organize the task. Understand how the rescheduling of task affects the overall delivery schedule, and understand and appreciate the importance of task on the critical path. So this is very important for the project manager to know so that the project manager can stick to the deadlines. Understand how to create and modify calendars. Understand resource listing and assignment of resources. Understand how to baseline the project and update project progress information. Understand impact of scope, time and cost changes. Then you will also learn how to generate dynamic reports of project information. And 2013 has a lot of inbuilt reporting and a lot of dynamic reporting options, okay, which let you create a lot of visual reports. Okay, now what is a project? I just want to know from you, not exactly, I'm no, see, when I'm doing this training, I want you guys to interact with me. I'm not expecting the right answer. What I'm expecting, since I can't see you face to face, so what I expect is that you interact with me. Okay. So can you tell me what is your general idea about a project? So what do you think a project is?
It's Marilyn. I'll chime in. A project is something that produces a unique product or service, so something that's never been done before, so a one-time thing, and it has a finite timeline, a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Absolutely right. And Kaustubh, do you agree or you have some other kind of idea about a
No, I
project?
completely. I
Okay.
I agree.
So, Kaustubh, do you have any, I've done any kind of project management or any kind of training on the basics of the
Uh,
project?
I've done I've done an MBA actually, and we had a class on project management, but I don't have too much exposure.
Okay, so that's okay, that's fine. So that's really good. So I believe that there has been some kind of basics of project management, taught there. So it's good to know. So
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you that projects, if stated clearly, so projects are basically temporary endeavors. Temporary because the projects are undertaken to achieve an objective, and when the objective is achieved, the project terminates. There's no need to do any kind of further work. Okay, so that's why the first and important attribute of a project is that it is a temporary endeavor undertaken to achieve an objective, and it has a finite timeline. So it has a start and a finish date, and projects, they work under constraints. So they have the constraints of time, budget, then resources. Okay, so the projects have to be planned in advance so that you can understand whether the objective can be achieved while having the constraints around it. So constraints are the situation which limit our ability to do the work. Okay, so we have to understand the constraints in this way. So I have a constraint of time. So I have to understand that how I can achieve the objective means that I put in all the features which are required in the product or um, the service that I'm creating, so that it is going to meet the user expectation or the end client expectation. Okay, so a project manager needs to plan and would like to find out during the planning stage itself that what could be the blockers, what could be the constraints which would almost not let him achieve the object, so that he can clear the blockers by an advanced planning. And he would like to know that how much of the total work that can be done under the constraint. So your work, the ability to do the total work in the project might be limited by time or the money or by the resources, but then you would be in a better position to find out using some software like Microsoft Project that can you still create something which is valuable, which is going to meet the expectation of the end user. So that is really very important for you, so that you have a realistic plan before you, and which will work out into something which has a relevance and good value to the end user. So that is the purpose of this project management and Microsoft project training. So basically it's a science, and when you control it, it becomes an art. So when you master it completely. And why do the top management of companies that care so much about it? Because a project manager is the person who is achieving the objectives of the various strategies or the various lines of business which will be achieved or which will be created by undertaking the various projects. Okay, so they want the project to be delivered with satisfaction to the client, and it should be profitable also, because a project manager is not only a project manager, he is a sort of profit manager also. He should be using the resources optimally to achieve the objective of the project. Now as you can see in this triangle, so we have time, scope, cost, and there is another triangle in between which is called the quality. So do you understand the quality? What is the meaning of the word quality? Yes, Kaustubh, tell me, what do you think is quality?
Quality would be uh, basically a product which would be superior in any way, or a service.
Yeah, something like that. And what about you, Marilyn? What do you think is quality?
Quality, it meets the kind of, it's if you when you start up the project, you set what kind of quality levels you want to meet. So when you want to control the quality to make sure your deliverable is satisfactory to your customer. So sometimes they'll choose on a project quality is not as important. So we'll do medium quality, and so you'll have measurements against that. So it's a way of measuring. I don't know another word to say besides quality of the actual deliverable to make sure it meets the customer's expectations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that is good. So basically, quality is about meeting the expectations of the customer. See, when the customer likes our work or the product that we have created for him or her, so the customer would give us a thumbs up. Okay, I like the stuff that you have, I mean, done for me or you have delivered to me. So it means that we have achieved quality. Okay, so quality is about meeting the expectations and the fitness for use criteria. So what is useful and found fit by the customer to use? So that is said to have met the quality expectations. Yes, of course, we would like to achieve or apply certain manufacturing standards or fabrication or development standards to the work that we do. So, but if we do and it still doesn't meet the expectations of the client, so we have not yet achieved the quality. So to achieve the quality, we have to balance the three constraints of time, scope, and cost. And for this, we need the Microsoft project. Okay, so let us understand how do we control the time, scope, and cost in Microsoft project, and so that you can work within the constraints and achieve a good satisfaction level for the end user or the client from your project. Okay, now the question comes that why do I need this training? So you would need this training because you want to plan the customer delivery in a more predictable and managed fashion. Because see, what happens, we have an arrangement with the customer on the basis of say installments, so which are called milestones. I believe that you have heard of milestones. So what do you think milestones are?
Targets.
Yeah. So why do we have milestones in project? There is a basic fundamental of doing business.
Sometimes milestones can be connected to a payment. So when you get so far in and you meet the quality requirements, you might get a payment. So in the real estate, maybe if you're building something and you pour the foundation, if it meets the quality and that's a milestone, usually it can release a payment, and it can also be used to track the progress of the project. It's a key
Absolutely
deliverable.
right. Yeah, absolutely right. Actually, milestones historically they come from payments only. So it's like this. Okay. So you have a project worth $5 billion. Okay. So and you ask the customer to make you a down payment of the entire amount. So customer wouldn't be willing to do so. Okay. And if the customer asks you to do the entire thing, make the entire project, and then take the payment, it won't be possible for you either. So solution is that you chop up the entire product into deliverables. So try to understand the meaning of the word deliverables and the product. So product is the whole set of the deliverables put together as something usable as a whole, and deliverables is something which is part of the entire project. Okay, the deliverables are basically linked to the milestones. So these are the milestones which are the first level milestones. They are also called the major milestones. Okay, they are major milestones because they are linked to the payments and they are mentioned in the agreements that okay, the customer will get this. Now these milestones they also serve as a means of judging the progress from the customer point of view. Because the customer understands the progress when he sees something done, when he sees something in front of him, so he would be more willing to pay. So that's why we have milestones as a way of doing business with people. Okay, so what do you do? So normally you would chop up this $5 million project into say five parts. So each of the equal $1 million payment, you will have to produce a deliverable. So looking at the deliverable, the customer will be able to judge the progress, quality, and anything else which satisfied him, and he would be willing to make the payment. So that's why we have this. And in between the major milestones, we plan our own milestones as well. So which is mostly used within the team, because what we do in between is of no relevance to the customer. The customer may not understand something partially. Customer would understand something when it is complete by itself. Say I am going to make a 5-story shopping mall for my client. Okay. And the first deliverable is the ground floor. So it's a complete ground floor with roof and all. Okay. So when I bring the customer to the site, he looks at he inspects it and he is satisfied that okay, this looks complete in itself, but this is just a deliverable. The product is not yet complete, but I qualify for a payment. So it means that it's a milestone. And keep in mind that the milestones, they always have dates and they are linked to the payments, and you should also confirm to the constraint of the date within the milestone as well. So there is one overall delivery date that is for the project, and you have to also ensure that the dates for the milestones are also met. And if you are completing the milestones on time, so you can ensure that project will be delivered on time as well. So that's why we say that why do I need this training? Because I want to be able to plan the customer delivery in a more predictable and managed fashion, because the customers, they believe us. If I tell them that look, by this date I'm going to deliver you this. Okay, so they believe us because they trust us that I know my job, that how much will be done by this date. Okay, so that is the reason. So you should also ensure that you can do it in a more predictable fashion. Okay, so that would happen when you use Microsoft Project, and you would like to identify the key constraints which might affect timely delivery. Okay, so if you need any material or people, or if you need something which is a key component to the project, so you can identify that constraint in the beginning so that you can pre-order it, or you can have some alternatives planned for it, so that it does not slow down on the progress, or it doesn't stop the work in the middle of the project. So you can ensure a timely delivery. Okay, you would also like to be able to identify an alternative solution to a task or a component well before it becomes a big blocker to the delivery. Yes, even then you would need this training. I want to track the progress of my project as compared to the baseline. So when we have planned our project, okay, and we have very good estimates for time, for the work efforts, for the cost, and for the resources to be used. So what we do that we use this values, this planned values, and we freeze this. We call it a baseline. So baseline is a sort of a measuring scale against which we compare the actual work done when we are doing the work, and we compare that what is the time being taken in each of the tasks, what is the cost, what is the resource being, or what is the work effort being applied, so that we can ensure that we are working within the constraints and we can deliver the project on time and with the agreed scope which is fulfilled. Right. So is this clear to you guys? So I need some feedback if you are around.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. So, Kostov, I believe that there is some static coming from your side.
I've
Some.
put my microphone on mute, so I don't know why there should be a sound.
Okay, okay. Okay, no issues. So, then I want to use a more appropriate tool for project scheduling. Appropriate. Now, what happens that when we start our, project management, say role or career. So when we step into the project management, sometimes we don't know an appropriate tool. So we start mostly with say Excel. So Excel is good to start with. It gives us a list of the things that we need to do in the project. Then we can work out the cost estimates, then we can work out the total material, etc. But the thing is that it doesn't let you schedule, it doesn't let you baseline, it doesn't let you track the progress. So actually it is not the appropriate tool. Yes, it works in some ways, but it is not the appropriate one. Okay, so Microsoft Project is perfectly designed to meet your needs of the project management and give you all the relevant and the necessary facilities to capture and baseline the data which is used in the project management, and so that you are in control of the project. So always keep in mind, there is a punchline here: projects fail in the beginning, not at the end. So basically the idea is that you have to understand that if you plan well, you would be able to know the constraints so that you can identify any kind of a failure, so you can preempt that failure in the beginning so that there is no failure at the end. Okay, so that would be helpful for you. And now let us understand the nature of a project. See, the projects, they have phases. So one phase is the initiating phase. So when you are starting the project, then you are doing organizing and preparing. So organizing and preparing means that you are planning here. After you have planned the project, you carry out the work of the project and you are monitoring and controlling at the same time. And then you close the project. Now, if you look at the area enclosed by this carrying out the work, which I'll mark here. I will mark it with a 1 second. I will mark it with a red color. So this area. So it has been estimated that the projects they use around 72%, or in something like 72, say 68 to 72% of the total project cost here in this area. Okay. Now the thing is that if you are not having a very clear objective at this point, or if you don't have a very good plan at this point and you have reached this point, and if you have to change something, so you can see that what is the cost involved. So there are already so much resources applied, and if you have to make a change at this point, so which I mark with an X, so you have already applied so many man hours and resources. So that would cost a lot. If you want to make some change here, so that would be less. Or if you make a change at point 1, 2 or 3, it is costliest at number 3 because you have already carried out the work and you have applied a lot of manpower and resources here. Okay, so this is the picture you got to keep in mind as a project manager, so that you can be well planned and you make sure that all your relevant information for the project planning is available and into the Microsoft project. So the Microsoft project will basically provide you uh, all kind of information which is good for tracking, which is good for your monitoring and reporting the progress, but it will be basically dependent on you to get all this information. So you make sure that you know the requirement of the project quite in detail, and you have to do some groundwork for that, so that you are well planned and you are planned in detail, so that the software can tell you that what work has been done, what is achieved, what is going slow, so that if you find something out of the variance, okay, so you can take a decision to control and you can bring it back within the planned limits, or within the planned limits within variance of the planned limits. Okay, so that is the tolerance limits. So once the things are within the tolerance limits, so you can go ahead with the later task and you can make sure that continues to happen throughout the project. So once you have done the tracking and progress reporting, you would be able to take the right decisions and your project will finish within the given constraints, and hopefully it will achieve the quality as well. So that will depend upon your planning, that how well you are planned, and you should have all the relevant details of all the work to be done in the project in as detailed fashion as possible, so that you have the right amount of granularity of the work, so that you can track it well. And that also gives you very good idea to calculate the resources needed. Okay, now if you look at the benefits of planning, so this picture will be very, very, I mean, clear to you. So when you spend a little bit more time on planning, basically you execute the plan. But if you spend less time on the planning, then you will be spending a lot of time doing, undoing and redoing, and the completion would actually take more time and more resources. So you can see very clearly, with a little bit more of planning, you actually don't have to do a lot of work. Actually you just execute the plan, and then you achieve the completeness of the project with the benefits of savings in terms of time, cost, resources, any kind of travel, and any kind of basically your brand image is also something which is very important. Okay, so which is a very tangible thing, but that may or may not be immediately measurable. So what you do is execute and monitor and control, because you know that what's to be done. So that's how you can do monitor and control. But when you're not planned well, you do not have much knowledge. You don't know that what you should be monitoring and what you should be controlling. So it is better that you plan well, and instead of firefighting, so what you do is execute, monitor and control. Okay, so these are the process in a project. Any project has the initiation, where you do the initial groundwork, and that involves setting up a clear objective to be achieved in the project. Then what is to be done to achieve that objective? That is derived by planning and designing. And then what do you do? That from planning and designing you go to the execution, and while you are executing you are doing monitoring and controlling at the same time. And if you find something missing or some changes come up, you might go to the planning and design, and when the total work is complete, so you go to the closing process group. So this is how the Microsoft project will be useful. So it will help you plan and design, it will help you monitor and control, so that you can take the right decisions at the right time. Okay, so there are three things which will be controlled here. A project has certain knowledge areas. So you can see integration management, scope management, time, cost, quality, human resource, communication, risk, procurement, and stakeholder. So using Microsoft project, you would be able to plan and manage these three, and rest of them will depend upon your project management skill. And of course, whatever information that you have put into the Microsoft project, they will also help you achieve quality, human resource, communication. But for that, you need some more knowledge here, as we are talking about the data and about the, say, the numbers, the figures. Okay, and when you look at the time, so time management also requires a proper scheduling of the work, and you should be able to know the dependencies between the various tasks in the project. So for that, what you need is Microsoft. Okay, and for the rest, you might need the software, and you need a lot of your project management training and experience. And let's go to the scope, time and cost management. So scope is something, is this clear to you guys? Can you tell me that what is the scope of a project? What is meant by the word scope?
It's what are the items that are included or to be done within the project versus things that aren't going to be done in the project.
Yes, yes, very good. And then what is requirement?
It's similar. It's related to scope, but I'm trying to think of a good example. A scope would be like in the case, I'll use a construction example. Scope would be we're building the house, but we're not going to do the landscaping. And a requirement would be we need 2 bathrooms in the house.
Okay. See, actually the requirement is something which comes from the end user or the client. So let me give you an example. See, example is like this. You go out for dinner with your family. Okay, so different people have different choices of the food. So the waiter comes to your table and he asks you that what do you want? You say I want Chinese, other person says I want Italian food, other person says I want continental, other says I want Indian food. So he makes a list of the food items. So that list will be called a requirement. Now he goes with this list to the kitchen and he hands it over to the chefs, to the chef there, and he explains to you. So what does the chef do? The chef looks at the list, and he starts to give instructions to his team member to do something. Okay, so that is the list of the task. He has done, that he has translated the requirements into tasks. So those tasks to be done are is called, in from the project management point of view, it's called the scope. So scope is the total work which is needed to be done to fulfill the requirement of the client. Okay, so scope is derived from the requirement, and scope is proportional to the requirement. If the requirement is big, then scope is also big, but scope is directly taken from the requirement. So scope is the total work to be done in a project to fulfill the requirement, right? And when I say cost management, there is another term which is called price. So do you know what is the similarity or difference between price and cost? Yeah, any idea about what is price?
Don't really know the difference between the two terms. Costs, though, usually can be like resource costs, so labor costs, material costs, hard costs. Price I don't usually use in the context of project management, except when I purchase something and I get an invoice, I pay the, the, the price, which could be the cost in my project plan, but usually I just look at cost management, which is things like labor and supplies and materials and things like that.
Yeah, you are right. So see, price and cost, they are both the amounts of money, but it depends upon the context. See, when you are purchasing something for the project, it would be a price to you. But now let me tell you that what happens. See, when I sell something, I incur a cost in making something. So that is the amount of money that is called the cost. Okay. Now what would be the price? The price would be the final amount of money that you would be paid by your client. So you would call it a price. So you set a price for a project, and then you determine the cost. So sometimes most of the times we work backwards. So the price is the amount of money which we have quoted to the client, and client is willing to
Uh,
pay because he has a certain value, okay, from the product to be derived, and his value understanding and value perception is equating to an amount of money. Okay, so from that point of view, it is a price. So you work backwards from the price, and you set a certain amount of margin, so which is called the profit, and you say that we must be doing this project within the this amount of money. So if I say that I price something at $100, okay, so $100 is the value, which is the value of the product for the customer. Now that doesn't mean that I spend $100 to make it. Actually, I would be spending something like $60. I would have a cost of $60 to make it. So what is the difference between the price and the cost is the value creation that we do, and for which we all get paid for our times in the project. Okay, so the project creates a value. So that value is the price. So that's why we say that in a project we should be managing the cost. So who does the price management? Actually, these marketing guys, they do the price management. So they create a value perception to the client. They try to secure a project in the best prices as they can. So what we can do as a project manager, that we manage the cost. Okay, so that's why we say cost management, and we try to make sure that we create the maximum value for the client or the end user with quality within the constraint of time by using optimally the resources. So resources would be people, resources would be material, resources would be equipment, and resources would be also the amount of cash that you need to spend to get certain work of the project done externally. So that also adds to the cost of the project. So you are doing cost management. Okay. So does it make sense? Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, great. So let's see that how Microsoft project can help us taking care of these three, that is the total work in the project and the time and the cost. Okay, now I would switch over to the now this is the introduction to the Microsoft project 2013. So basically you just keep in mind that it is one of the best project management tool, but it can never replace your good judgment and experience. So your judgment and experience about the project is something which lets you take the right decision and take the project to the fulfillment of the objective and within constraints, and get the desired quality which is satisfying to the customer. And it helps you accomplish the following. It will help you track the information you gather about the work, duration, cost, and resource requirement for your project. It will help you visualize and present your project plan in standard well-defined formats. So the standard well-defined formats would be something like the network diagrams, the Gantt charts, and the graphs and the pie charts that you have, that you will need to understand. And you would be able to schedule tasks and resources consistently and effectively. So consistently means that like if you want to schedule people, so it is very, very important that they have the work which is equivalent to their capacity. So that is 8 man hours. So people should not be underutilized nor they should be overutilized in a project. So you are the project manager to ensure that. Okay, so that is consistent scheduling of tasks and resources. Then you would be able to exchange project information with other Microsoft Office system applications. Like you can take information from here and put it into Excel and send it to someone who doesn't have Microsoft project, and you can put it into the PowerPoint or into the Word. You can communicate with resources and other stakeholders via reports. It helps the project manager retain ultimate control of the project, and you can manage the projects using a program that looks and feels like other desktop productivity application. Okay, so now let's have a look that why Microsoft project has become so widespread. So basically it has a computational brain that can handle issues such as ripple effects. When task one in 1,000 task sequence changes its start date. So if you insert a task in the, say, in the middle of a long task list of say 1,000, 2,000, it immediately recalculates. Okay, so this scheduling engine is very, very quick and very, very powerful, and it can also account for non-working times such as weekends and the holidays, so that you have a realistic finish date always predicted for you, and you can look at your delivery times as agreed, and you can try to match up the plan with the real world delivery times that you have signed up with your client. And if you find something is going beyond that, then you would be in a better position to apply more resources to certain tasks. Okay, so that you can fit the schedule realistically. Okay, and there are applications like Excel and Outlook. But to be a successful project manager, you need which has a good scheduling engine. So these are the new features, and I believe that Mary, that you would find a lot of the features which are already known to you. So these are the features. Basically, I'm comparing 2010. So it has got dynamic reporting, so which is a major feature as compared to 2010. And it has something called a task path, so where you can see that which is a driver task. If a task has multiple predecessor, and it can show you the task path which is the driver path task. And then it has a redesigned Backstage View SkyDrive integration, where you can share your MPP file on the SkyDrive, and you can work from multiple places, and support for touch input in Windows 8. And basically if you have Windows 8, and 2013 can support the touch. If you can touch a, say, cell or a place, and you can start to input the data, so you can have a sort of just like mouse like experience. By using a touch, you can expand or contract the screen like you would do on your smartphone. Then you have integration with link, so you can share the information on the screen with someone else who is also involved in planning or tracking or managing with you. So that is it. And plus you have all these features like Definitely, if you're upgrading from 2007, you have these features like manual scheduling, which was not there in 2007. Then you have placeholder task, inactive task, top-down summary, compare projects, then timeline view, so which is an excellent view to give a bird's eye view, which was not there in 2007. Enhance copy and paste, which lets you copy paste not only the text but also screen snapshots minus the tools. Okay, then Excel like features, and you can find commonly used commands very quickly, and the view slider. So let's get into the Microsoft project. So the features are dynamic reporting. So we are looking at the toolbar of 2013. So it has a main option which is called report, and there are certain reports which are inbuilt, and then you can create your own customized reports also, and you can do the visual reports, so where basically you export the data to the Excel. So that happens automatically. It exports data to Excel and it displays the data in a visual graphic format in Excel. So that is the visual reports. Then what we have is dynamic reporting, in which you can dynamically create your own reports, and you can choose that what kind of report you have, what is the format, and what are the data that you want to compare. Okay, so that you can have a very granular control on the reports that you want to make. And then you have, what you have is a task path. So the task path will trace the driving predecessor or driven successor. Okay, so that is something which is very relevant when you are wanting to know that what could be the constraint caused by in a multiple predecessor scenario, because one of the predecessor is the longest one, and if the longest predecessor doesn't happen in time, so that can delay the successor. So the task path lets you see that. Okay, then Backstage View. So Backstage View shows you the bird's eye information about the project: start date, finish date, schedule from current date, status date, and all these things. And then what you have is a SkyDrive integration, where you can share the same file across your PC, your smartphone, and your laptop, or wherever you are. You can always continue to work on that. You can sign in and you can connect to the net, and you can access the same file over the SkyDrive. Then what you have is a fluent user interface, that is the ribbon menu, which was not there in 2007. Now you have this. So we are now very much used to it. We have seen that being used in the office. So that tells us that what are the options, what are the sub options below the main options. So they are always the visible to us, so that we can see and which options we can use. Then what we have here is a team planner. So the team planner is a very good way to distribute the task between the various team members. It lets us grab any task and give it to another team member who has similar skills and capabilities. So that is the team planner. So team planner view lets us see that which team members have which task and spread across the calendar. So that is a very powerful view. And synchronization with SharePoint list, anybody who has worked with SharePoint, so they know that there are certain preliminary project management tasks that they can create in SharePoint. So they can pull in those into the Microsoft project, they can replan and push them back into the SharePoint. So that is there. And then you have something called manual scheduling, which is not there in 2007. So manual scheduling lets you put in a task. The task is manually scheduled for the purposes of administration or something. The task is not related or not dependent upon many other tasks. So this task will take its duration, start date, finish date from you. Okay, and it will not generate its own start date or something, and the Microsoft project won't change its any of the date depending upon the relationship. So you got to make sure that you can put in the relevant information, so that you can put it on particular dates and you have duration. So that would be a manually schedule. So that is useful for any kind of task which is not dependent and which requires you to decide that when it should be done. So other tasks which are, say, technical ones, they are basically dependent upon the relationship and the sequence. Okay, so that is the manual scheduling task. And then what we have is placeholder tasks. So basically to show you a sequence. Okay, and we have a feature called inactivate or activate. So inactivate or inactivate basically lets us do some sort of what if analysis, and it also helps us to make sure that while we are in the planning stage and we are not sure about any task, we don't have to actually delete it. So what we can do is that we can inactivate it for a while, and while it is being decided whether it is to be done or not. Okay, so that before the final decision, it can be either inactivated or activated if it is needed as part of the project plan. So that is the inactive task. So this is the feature. And then what we have is top-down summary. So top-down summary, it lets us create a work breakdown structure very quickly. Okay, it's a sort of a template which once clicked will help us put up a group summary task, and below it we can put the subtask. Okay, so that is the top-down summary, and we can compare projects. So this is a very powerful feature which was not there in 2007. It has been around since 2010. So wherein what we can do, if there are two people working on the same project file, and if one person makes a changes, so one person who is, say, the main controller of the project planning, so he can look at the changes done by the other person by comparison. So once he gets the changed file, he can compare with the original file, and he can see line by line that what changes have been done by the other person. So if he is okay with those changes, he can save them, he can utilize them. Okay, so he can see the changes very quickly to take some decision whether to keep or reject them, or whether to take them partially. So it's up to him. So compare projects lets you do that. Then what we have is a very beautiful feature, that is the timeline view. So in the timeline view, so what you have here on the top is the timeline of the project, which is displayed in a very beautiful format, and you can change the way it looks by customizing the colors and the text and the milestones placement and everything that you can control, so that it gives you a very good bird's eye view of the project. So here you place the top level task of the project and with their milestones, and you can actually see that how they are being executed within the overall project plan, so that you have a quick understanding. So these kind of views are very useful to show to the client. Okay, because the clients are not interested in knowing the nut bolts of the project, that what you are doing in between. So they would be interested to see when they will have their deliverables on certain dates. Okay, so and you can also take your own decision to change the project plan if needed to fit in within the agreed plan as per the client requirement. And you have the enhanced copy and paste feature. So you can either copy the text or you can copy a snapshot. So that is the copy picture. So this is something which is also a very good feature, where you can share the information of the project planning with some stakeholder, and it doesn't copy any kind of the toolbar or something. It just copies the the task columns and the Gantt chart. Okay, so they have something Excel like feature that, like, you can add a column at the end. So these columns are basically are nothing but there are inbuilt columns which can be utilized to get some more information about the data on the screen. Okay, so these are inbuilt columns, so you can add a column if you need to on a particular screen. Then there is something called the view slider here. So the view slider lets you expand or contract the Gantt chart, so that you want to see the entire Gantt chart, you can fit it into the available screen, and the view slider lets you do that. Then you can customize the ribbon menu on the top by switching on or switching off certain features of the ribbon menu. Okay, so that is the customization. So this feature is available to you through the project options, and there is backward compatibility as well. So for the backward compatibility, you can read in files from 2003, you can read in files from 2007 and from 2010, and once you import into 2013, so you can add more relevant information as per 2013, and you can save the files in 2013 version and continue to use them if you have any kind of previously planned projects in the MPP format. Okay, so the format can be read and you can add, but keep in mind that when you save from 2013, by default it will save as 2013 format, which might not be readable in the 2000 in the previous version of the software. And if you save as the previous version, then it would strip off certain information which is not available in the previous version, okay, to make the file compatible with the previous version. So that is the backward compatibility. Now we have to learn certain Microsoft project terms. Okay, so let's do this thing. So can we have a break, like 5 minutes break, before we go to this Microsoft project terms?
So,
Yep.
Okay, so guys, do you have any questions till this point? Any doubts about project definition or something?
Nope.
no.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. So let's be back in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, so we have to understand certain Microsoft project terms. Like one of the terms that will be used is duration. So what is duration basically? Have any the idea?
How long something takes?
Yeah, so
In
duration is a
time,
span of time. Yeah, span of time is called the duration. So duration is measured in minutes, it is measured in hours, it is measured in days, it is measured in weeks, it is measured in months. So there are different abbreviations for the different durations in Microsoft project, which can be used for the estimation purpose, for stating the duration of any task. Okay, and then what we have is the work. So which is the effort? So how is work measured? Do you have any idea? Say for people.
in hours?
Yeah, actually we call it the person hours or the man hours. Okay, so not just the hours, because the hours are say continuous. So that is a span of time. When I say person hours, so that means that what is the work effort like? If I say 16 person hours. So 16 person hour doesn't mean that the duration is also 16 hours. If two people working simultaneously on one day, okay, at the same time during one work day, their total work effort is 16 man hours. So one person gives an output of 8 man hours. If one person works for 4 days, he gives an output of 32 man hours. And if on any one day 4 people work simultaneously, so what will be their total output? That is the work effort.
72 hours.
That will be 32 man hours, because one person gives an output of 8 man hours. So 8 multiplied by 4. If 4 people work together for one day, so that will be 32 man hours, right? So work is measured in man hours. And what is the resource?
It can resource can be a person, so someone doing the work, but it can also be a material. If you need to purchase something, so there's two classes of resources.
Yeah. So, in Microsoft project, there are three different classes of resources. One is the work type resource, where the cost of the resource is measured. The variable cost is measured on the basis of the total amount of work done. That is the man hours. Okay. And the work type resource can also be used for machines also. So even that is a work type resource. And another type of resource is the material resource. So the material resource is the material like which is measured in liters, meters, kgs. Okay. So length, volume, or the units of quantities. So these are called material resources. So material resources may be variable or it might be fixed according to the need of the particular task. Okay. And then there is the third type of resource, which is called the cost type resource. So cost type resources are purely expenses which you incur when getting a certain task done. The task is done by external resources. So you are only concerned with paying the cash for the result to be utilized into the project work. So these are the three classifications of resource. Now what is resource unit?
Does it depend on the type of resource? So a resource unit could be hours if it's a person, or like you said, volume if it's a certain amount of materials, or dollars if it's an actual cost.
Yeah, actually resource units are measured for the resources which have variable application. Like the resource unit, say for the work type resource, is measured in percentage. If I use a person for whole day, so its resource unit would be 100%, that I am using 100% or full time of that person for a particular task. And if I'm using that person say half a day, so I would mention in the units column, I'm I will say 50%. So I'm using this resource at a 50% capacity. So that is the resource unit. And for material type resource, it is a number for the count of the unit of measure. So I just enter a number. So number could be for liters, meters. Okay. So that could be for the volume, length, could be for the weight, kgs, pounds, or something like that. So that is the resource units. And there is something which is called the effort driven. So effort driven are those tasks which in which the duration can be decreased by doing more effort by applying more resources. So do you have any idea about the effort driven task? Can you give any guess or example?
Um, sure. Um, Again, I'll use construction. If you have to dig a hole,
Yeah.
if you have more than one person digging the hole, it goes twice as fast. Whereas if you are pouring concrete and it needs to cure, no matter how many people you put on it, it's still going to take the same amount of time or hours to cure. So it doesn't matter how many people you add on it. So that would be an example of non-effort driven.
Yes, absolutely right. Actually, the effort-driven tasks are those tasks which can be basically divided between multiple resources and can be done by the multiple resources all at the same time so that the total duration can be reduced by applying more effort. Like for example, there are 100 boxes to be packed and on an average one person can pack those 100 boxes in one day. Now, if it is a requirement of the project that those 100 boxes be packed in quarter duration of the day, so what do I do? That I can divide this task and I can give it to four people. So the four people, what they will do, they will pack 25 boxes each and they can finish in 2 hours. So
Wow.
they will work together and they will finish it in 2 hours. So that will reduce the duration from one working day to quarter of a working day. Right. So it is because that type of work is the effort driven. So the total effort still remains the same. If one person works for the entire day, he will have an output of 8 man hours. And if four people work for 2 hours, so that will still add up to 8 man hours. So the total man hours or the person hours, they remain the same for the effort driven mostly. So the way if you calculate. Now we come to something called fixed duration, the example that you gave along with that if you pour concrete and then no matter how many people you put on it, that's going to take the constant time. For example, if I give an example from the IT, if I'm going to install a server, I'm going to set up a server and install software on it, that has its own speed of installation due to the nature of the process. So that is the fixed duration. So no matter what I do, it cannot be reduced by asking more people to do that job because it is not going to be reduced due to the nature of the process, that is the fixed duration. Now there is something called fixed units. So fixed units mean that if a resource is available in a certain number of the units, and if I increase the work, then the duration will increase, and if I reduce the duration, okay, the work effort will reduce. So because the units are fixed. So the what is the unit of a person? See, the unit of one person is 8 hours or 8 man hours, or we can state it as 100%. So based upon that, I say that if a person works for 8 hours, he has given 100% of his output. So that is the unit. Now if I give this person, keeping the units as same, say 2 days of task, because his units is available at 8 hours per day, so his duration to finish the task would increase. Okay. Now if I give him 3 days task, his units is constant. So he will be doing the task 8 hours per day and he would be finishing it in 3 days. Now if I give him a task which is like say 24 man hours and I say that I reduce his units to 50%. Okay. So if I reduce his units to 50%, so it would look like this. So the total work that he has to do is 24 man hours, and if I reduce his units to 50%, so that would be like 4 hours. So his duration would be 6 days. So if he works at 50% his capacity or 50% of the units that he can provide out of his total units of 100, so he would be working at 4 hours per day, and any task which requires around 24 man hours of the work effort would take 6 days to complete. That is because of the fixed units. And then what we have is fixed work. So when the work is fixed, and if we apply more resources, the work can be reduced. If the work is fixed at 24, okay, and if I the increase the units, if I ask, say, one person to work full time, another person to work half time, it means that I'm using 12 man hours of the work effort per day, then this work will get done in 2 days duration. Okay, and similarly, if I give this, keeping the work constant, and if I give to a person who can work 8 hours per day, so it will take 3 days, because here the work is fixed. So in Microsoft project you have task types in which you can either have fixed duration, fixed units, or fixed work. And then there is something called the over allocation, where you are trying to use a resource more than its availability. So that kind of a situation is called the over allocation. For example, you have two tasks which are happening in parallel on the same day, and you apply one resource or a person to that task, it will show that this person is over allocated, because the output of one person is that of the 8 person hours or 8 man hours, and surely he can't do something which is 16 man hours. So when we fix that situation, we call it leveling. So we fix it by either bringing in another person to work side by side, or we reschedule low priority task to a later date. Okay, so that levels it. So that is called leveling. So these are certain Microsoft project terms, and they will become more clear when we do the do the practice. So these are the duration and work definition, and this is how they look like. So resource units, they basically indicate how much of a resource available time according to the resource calendar is being used to work on a particular task. So these are the resource types. So you can read them.
It's Marilyn. I was going to ask, is this material available somewhere to download afterwards, or?
Yeah, I will send you the copy of the entire slides.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you can go through it once again. So that will not be a problem. So you can just interact with me based upon this if you have any doubt here. So what we will do, that we will go through a practice project. Okay, and plus after the practice project you can go through this material once again to make sure that you have learned all the thing which is part of the training program. So this cost resource is clear. So basically, the cost type resource is something which was not there in Microsoft Project 2007. I hope you remember that. Have you tried to use any version after 2007, Marilyn?
A little bit of 2010, but not in detail. So
Okay.
yeah, the cost
I believe
is
that
a
you
new
must have used
thing.
2007 in details.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have, then you would remember that the cost type resource was not there. There were only two type of resources. One is the work and one is the
Materials, yeah.
materials. Two types. Okay. The third type,
Yeah.
that is the cost type, that is new. So
Okay.
that is, I mean, very, very relevant. You will find it very good. Okay. So, okay, now we have understood the resource types, and this is a scheduling formula. Scheduling formula is very simple. So basically, the duration is calculated like this. Suppose if I have a work effort which requires me to complete the job using, say I require a work effort of say 48 man hours. Okay. Now if I give it to one person full time, so say 8. So you know what is this 8 representative of? It is representing 100% resource units. So how many days it's going to take? How many days it is going to take? I mean the duration will be. Guys, can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Yeah. So tell me that what is the duration?
6 days.
Yeah, it's going to take 6 days for a person to complete. Okay, like this. Now, if I use a person, say 50% of the time, 50%. So that is the 50% unit. Okay. So what is 50%?
4 man hour.
4 man hours. So now what will be the new duration of the task?
12 days.
Yes, so it's going to double up the time. Okay. Okay. Now, if I have say 200%, now how much does 200% translate into?
16 man hours.
16 man hours. You know what does 200% means?
Over
200%.
allocation.
No, not actually the over allocation. Yes. So what you said is right. Uh, because I taught you that much only. Now let me also tell you the difference here. Yes, actually you can have 200%. 200% means there are two people. 100% is
Okay.
the maximum that one person can give. If something is more than 100%, it means that you have one person plus another person. So you know it can be 125%, it could be 150% also. So I will explain to you. Now 200% means that there are two people working side by side. So what will be the duration? Now if two
Three
people
days.
work, it will take 3 days. Okay, so it means that if you double the resources, you can reduce the time, you can reduce it to half. Now I can also have this 150%. So now I believe that you can guess that what will be 150%.
Take 4 days. It will be 12 hours.
Yeah, so 12 man hours. So how do you get 12 man hours per day?
One person works on 100% and one person works on 50%.
Yes, absolutely right. One person works full day and another person works half a day. So that's how I get 150% man hours of output. Yes, that is absolutely fine. Now you have to think of a situation where you have certain resource availability. You might have one person, but you might have another person, but he says, boss, I can only work for 4 hours per day. So, you know, his availability as compared to the 100% is 50%. If one person says that I am available for 2 hours per day, so his availability or the work units is 25%. Similarly, I can have 1000%. So how many people does 1000% translate to?
80 people.
No, 1000%
Sorry,
divided by
it'll be 8.
8 people.
Yeah, 8 people.
Okay. And 8 people represent how many man hours per day?
It will be 64.
64 man hours. Absolutely right. So, you know, that is the output that you have available with you. So it is up to you how much work effort is required and how much is available or you can make available. So based upon that, you can determine that what is relevant and you would be able to calculate the duration of the project work. Okay, so directly duration is indirectly proportional to the resource units. If the resource units are more, the duration comes down. If the resource units are less, then the duration goes up. Or if you increase the duration, then you can use less people. I mean, you can use less time of a person. Okay, so that's how it works out. Okay. Now, fixed units as the resource assigned unit remain constant and increase decrease in assigned work will result in a corresponding increase decrease in task duration. Fixed unit is the default task type for new tasks. So let's look at the fixed units. Now I have is a person who is available to me only for 50%. Okay, he is available to me 50% of the time. So how much 50% translate into what is the man hour availability?
4 hours.
4 hours. So he can work for 4 hours per day, or he can give an output of 4 man hours, and this is fixed. Now, what happens? I give him a task which requires, say, 48 man hours of the work effort. So how much duration it will give? How much time is this person going to take?
12, 12 days.
Yes, is going to take 12 days. Okay, now I give him a task of the effort is required of 24 man hours. Now, what is the duration taken by him?
If the effort is still 50%, then
Yes, still
it
50%.
take, it will take
6
6
days.
days,
And I give him a task of 12 man hours.
3
Now,
days,
what is the duration?
3 days.
3 days. Now, do you see a pattern here? Do you see that as I'm keeping the units as constant and I reduce or increase the work effort, there is a corresponding reduction in the duration as well. You see this
Yeah.
increase decrease in the task duration because his availability is constant, and if there is more work to be done, he takes more time, and if there is less work to be done, he takes less time. So that is the nature of the fixed units. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Fixed work. Okay, now it says if the assigned work should remain constant, then as the task duration goes up, the assigned units will go down and vice versa. Now that's very interesting thing. Now, suppose the assigned work is 48 man hours. I say MH, 48 man hours, and and I say that you can do it in 4 days. So how much work effort per day is required to do it in 4 days?
12?
Yeah. So how much work effort do I require to do it in 4 days?
150%.
Hmm?
Yeah.
12. Okay. Now if I say that okay, you can do the same job, 48 man hours of job, I am going to give you 8 days of time. So do it over a period of 8 days. Okay. Now what is the required man hours here per day?
6?
Yes. So do you see a pattern here?
Yep.
Yeah. So what I'm doing that I'm keeping the work effort, the required work effort as fixed, and if I increase the duration, then the man hour or the work effort it goes down. If you increase the duration, it means that the person can work less and less hours per day to finish the work. Okay. So if I give him 16 days duration, this will come to 3. If I increase it to 16. So there is less work effort required per day. So that is the fixed work. So, but if I reduce the duration, then I have to increase the workforce. I have to increase the units. Okay, if I reduce the say duration to say 1 day, if I say it like this, okay, if I say that 48, now I want it to be covered in 1 day. So then what do I do? I want it to be done in 1 day. So how many people do I need?
6.
8 man, 6 people. Yeah.
Yes, I would need 6 people. So the 6 people, when they work, they each give an output of 8 man hours and it adds up to 48 man hours. And so that I can finish the work in 1 day. So that is the fixed work type task. So we can have this classification also if we need to. Okay, so you will see the relevance very soon. Then we go to this fixed duration. In this, the duration is fixed, but here, if I increase the resource units, only the work effort will go up. So it's like this. If the assigned units are greater than max units, okay. So let's see how it is done. So this is the number of days. I have to do a task in 2 days. Okay, and this is the 48. Okay, if I increase the number of the people here, okay, no, what I have here is that it is fixed. The 2 days is fixed, and 1 second. Let me erase this. So what I have is equal to 2 days, and 2 days is fixed. Okay. Now, if I use one person, okay. So if I use one person, and if I make this person work for 2 days, so what is the total man hours?
16.
It will give an output of 16. Now, if I use 2 and the duration is 2 days because the work effort, I mean increased work effort isn't going to reduce the duration. So now what will be the new uh, total work output if I use 2 people for 2 days? It will be
32
32. Okay, if I use 3 people, so my work output for three people will be 48
40.
because one
Yeah,
person
yeah.
works. Okay. No, actually it will not be 48, but it will be 72. You see this relevance here. So basically, it's no 1 second for 2. So 3 people, if they work for 1 day, 24 and plus 2 is 48. Actually, it is 48. 48 is correct. Yeah, right. So it is going to increase like that. But the duration isn't going to come down because that is the nature of the work. So like there are certain tasks which are process based, so they are not impacted. So the process based task, they are not impacted by increase in the resources. Okay, so this is the resource over allocation situation. Okay, so this is how it looks like in the interface. Now let's switch over to the interface. Let's see that how the interface looks like. So let me show you the relevant portions of the screen. So the screen looks like this. So when you open the screen, but basically you would be seeing a blank one, but let me help you identify the various features of the screen. See, on the top what you have is a quick access toolbar. Now the quick access toolbar is something which you can configure and something which is used very frequently for any kind of small little task to be done. Like if you want to save the file, or if you want to have a print preview, or if you want to undo or redo something, if you want to allocate a resource or something which is very frequently used by you, you can configure it your way. So that's a great convenience for you because you don't have to go through the ribbon menu to access those features. So have you used quick access toolbar in the office? In Office 2010 or 2013?
Yep.
And you know how to configure this? You may not know. So I will just tell you. Then what you have is the ribbon menu. Now the benefit of the ribbon menu is that you can see the sub options in a menu without having to remember it. So you can use it while you are doing your task. While you're doing your planning, you can see the sub options. You don't have to remember everything, but in a drop down menu, you have to remember that what's going to come up in the drop down. And you can't use these sub options in a drop down menu at the same time while you are doing some work. But the ribbon menu is highly useful because when you are doing the work, actually you can see all the sub options which are relevant, and you don't have to remember everything, and you can use the options which you need. Okay, then what you have next to it, you have is timeline view. So the timeline view gives you the bird's eye view of the project, and then what you have below that is the columns. So the columns are basically indicator, then there is task, duration, start date, finish date, predecessor column, then resource name column, then you can add new columns. So the task name column, it represents the total scope of the project. So here you state all the tasks which are to be done in the project, and here you can create a hierarchy based logical grouped logically grouped task, so which is called a work breakdown structure. So then in the next column, so that is the input column. So you input the duration of the task, that how much do you think or how much you have planned for a task to be done in the duration. So that is the number of the units of time span. So that could be in minutes, that could be in hours, that could be in days, that could be in weeks, that could be in months. Then what you have next is your start and finish column. The start and finish column, so they would be basically derived by the way of calculation based upon the duration and the dependency of the task. If the task is one of the earliest tasks in a project, then the start date will be the start date of the project, and finish date will be calculated from the duration of a task, and the non-working time which falls in between the duration of a task. Okay, so that is the start and finish date. Okay, so then what we have is the predecessor, where we set the relationship of a task to its dependent task. So a task can be a predecessor or a successor depending upon the relationship. And then in the resource column, we can see the resources which have been applied to do this stuff. So there are certain columns which are not visible here, like the work effort or the cost. So these are the initial set of the columns that would be available in a particular view. So you have to understand that but the views or the tables which are being presented here, so they have a set of columns which are the initial set of columns, and if you need any other further columns, you can insert a column. So the columns in Microsoft Project are inbuilt, and they are working in the background. They are doing their calculation and their work, and whenever you need to display them, you can display them by inserting them. If you don't need a particular column, you can hide it. So it's very flexible. And what we have on the left hand side is our view bar. So the view bar is the bar which is used for viewing the frequently used menu options. These options are available from the top also, from the ribbon menu also, but the view bar is relevant because it lets you select an option very quickly. So you can keep it switched off, or you can shrink it or you can expand it. So this is the expanded view of the view bar. So it shows you all the options, the relevant ones, and you use the option that you need immediately by a single click. Okay, then what you have towards the right is this divider bar. So the divider bar is basically to divide the screen between your entry area and the Gantt chart area. So if you need to see more of the Gantt chart, you can just grab this divider bar and shift it towards the left, and it will provide an expanded view of the Gantt chart and a detailed view of the Gantt chart. And if that helps you in taking certain decision, it's good. So when you are doing entry or something, when you don't need to see the Gantt chart more often or less often, you can just drag it towards the right and it will give more area to the columns. Okay, so that you can enter the data. So after you are done, when you are ready and when you want to see that how the task have been laid out against the timeline, okay, so you can expand the Gantt chart view by dragging the divider bar towards the left end so that you can view more of the Gantt chart. And on top of the Gantt chart, there is something called calendar time scale. So time scale is just like the scale that you have to measure length. So here you are measuring the length of the time. So length of the time is measured in say weeks, in months, in days, in quarters, in okay. So you can adjust the scale according to your requirement. So this is very flexible. Okay, so now let's switch to the actual screen. So I'll just go and start the Microsoft project. So do you see the screen? So that is the beginning. That when you start the software, you see the screen. Are you guys getting my screen here?
Yeah. Yes, we are. I can see it.
Okay. Okay. So normally, you have certain templates available. So you can have a ready-made sort of project plan, which if relevant to your kind of project, you can use it as a starting point. But for the purposes of learning, we are not going to use any template. So we are going to use the blank project itself. So the blank project is on the left corner. So once I click on this, so what I get is a blank screen, which shows me a blank project. So do you see a blank project here?
Yep.
Okay. Now, if you look at this carefully, it has got the timeline. So is your timeline exposed? Do you see the timeline on your screen as well?
Yep.
Okay. So currently you will find there is nothing on the timeline because your project plan is blank. So can you guys do this? Can you grab your divider bar and move it towards the right and move it towards the left and get a hang of it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is for someone who is doing it for the first time. So have you used Microsoft Project before? I'm asking this question to Kostov. Kostov, you have used it before or you are using it for the
No,
first
I
time?
haven't. I'm using it for the first time.
Okay, you are using it for the first time because you don't
Yes.
have this thing in Excel. So, I just
Mm-hmm.
want you to get a hang of this divider bar. So I want you to grab it a couple of times and move it left and right so that you can understand that what it means. Okay,
Yeah,
so
managed.
basically the idea is to divide the available screen between your entry area. So this is called the entry area. You enter the task name, you enter the duration, but you don't enter the start and finish dates for the automatically scheduled task. Why? Because this will be calculated by the scheduling engine. So that's why we are using Microsoft Project for, because we want Microsoft Project to do the scheduling for us. Okay, so let's do this thing. Let us have a look at the quick access toolbar. Let's start from the top. Quick access toolbar. Do you see the options here on my screen here? This is the option which is called save. It may or may not be there on your screen. Then there's an option called assign resources. There's another option called scroll to task. So it's not there on your screen or in your configuration. So let's do this thing. Let us configure this first. So I want you to do is click on file. Click on file. Have
Mm-hmm.
you clicked? Okay.
Yes.
Now now I want you to click on the option on the green ribbon at the bottom there is an option called options. So you will get to see a pop-up like this. It would say project options. Do you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, now there is an option within the left side column, quick access toolbar. You see the quick access toolbar.
Mm-hmm.
So what you can do that you can configure your quick access toolbar just like this. It's very simple and intuitive. Now if you look at my configuration, it has got save, assign resources, scroll to task, project information, zoom entire project, print preview, copy picture. So what I want you guys to do is configure it the same way as mine, because you know this has been determined to be highly optimal. So you will also find it useful to start with, and then you can change it to the way you prefer. So I believe that you can do it. So if you want to move something from left to right, what you can do, you can just select that option and click on the add. So once you click on the add, it will appear on the right side, and then you can shift it up or down to place it properly. If you want to remove something, you just click on it and you click on the button remove. So when you click on the button remove, it goes from the left side to the right side. So can you guys do this? Can you just add this option and let me know when you are done?
Done.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So both of you are done. Okay, great. So you have sequenced it in this order.
Not exactly.
So you sequence this it in a particular the order. So save should be on the top. If you want to take something to the top, just select it and press the top arrow button, and it will go to the particular position. So you know they will appear from left to right. So something which is at the top will appear on the left. Something which is at the bottom will go towards the extreme right.
Okay.
Okay, you are done now. Okay. Now click on the button OK. Now I believe that you can see it appear on the top of the quick access toolbar. So you
Yeah.
will very soon realize the relevance. So what I want you to do is this. First of all I want you to click on this save symbol. That is the floppy symbol we remember from the good old times. So once you click on this, so you know it will ask you where do you want to save it. Do you want to sync with SharePoint, OneDrive, or you just select computer. Okay, so you just select a folder where you would like to save it. So you select any folder of your choice where you can find it, or maybe you can save it on the desktop, which is the quickest place to find any file, and later you can shift it to any relevant folder where you would like to store a file for a long time. So you give it the name. So you know what happens. So Microsoft project will give it a name, 1, 2, 3 or something. So you can give it some sort of relevant name. So for the timing, you can just keep it as project 1. So once you save it, so it will save it and come back. And so what you have is project1.mpp. Do you see this name appear on the top in the middle of the file? So this is the name by which it has been saved. Okay, so this name will be displayed here. So then we have come back to the ribbon menu. So do you see any extra options on your ribbon menu as different from my ribbon menu? Task, resource, report, project view, format, or it's the same? Or do you find anything missing in your ribbon menu? The top options, task, resource, report, project view, format.
It's
It's
the
the
same.
same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So that's good. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is this. Go to the left hand side and right click here, and it would look like this. And I want you to expand this view bar like this. So do you see your view bar now?
Yep.
So you know this view bar has the options which are very quickly used. I mean, which are very quickly needed. So they have been kept handy here. So whenever you need them, and you would see that one of the options is highlighted in the orange glow. So you know this is the current screen where you are. Okay, right now if you click on the calendar, it's not going to show you any items in the calendar. So it's blank. If you click on the network diagram, it's blank, nothing here. Task form.
So Joy, could you help me get the view bar on the left side again?
Yeah, so if you want to get the view bar, just right click here. So what you get is a right click menu, and you go to the bottom of this menu where you have the view bar, and just click
Uh,
on this.
but but I don't have anything on the left side.
No, no. On the left side, it would initially it would look like this. Do you see this Gantt chart? It says Gantt chart on the left hand side. Do you
Correct.
see this? Huh? Do you see this text
Yeah.
Gantt chart? Just click on
Yeah.
the text. I mean, right click on the text.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So once you
Yeah.
right, you will see a view bar option at the bottom of the right click menu that comes up. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So once you click on it, so you will get this view bar options. So basically the options that you were seeing in the right click menu, it has the same options in the view bar itself. Okay. In the
Mhm.
view bar, you are provided with the icons for easy identification of any option. Okay. So that
Right.
is the
Right.
benefit. So it is very quick to use. The same options, they are available in the top level menu ribbon also, but in the
Mhm.
view bar, they are quickly used, and that saves time when you are planning a project.
Mhm.
Okay. So now your screen looks like mine, pretty much the same like mine.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, good. And now there is one more feature here. Is your ribbon visible? Top level ribbon.
It wasn't, but when I clicked on task, it was visible.
Okay, now see, there is an option here which if you right click on any of the top menu, it will show you a right click menu. It says customize the ribbon or collapse the ribbon. So if you click on collapse the ribbon, what will happen? The ribbon would no longer be visible, but it will be only visible when you click on the top level menu option, and if you remove the cursor, and it will disappear once again. Can you do it? Can you collapse
Yeah.
and expand the ribbon? So basically you will keep the ribbon expanded and permanently visible, because right now you are in the learning mode and you need to have this visible at all the times. Now the advantage is that if you are in a particular, say, top option like resource, it will show you the sub options for the resource. If you click on the report, it will show you the sub options for the report, and if you click on the task, it will show you the sub options for the task. Okay, so just click on the various top menus and see. So if you look at the task, it has the options like cut, copy, format painter. So these are something which is very, very familiar to you. And you have the font formatting, format the color for the text. And there are certain options which are very specific to Microsoft project. Okay, you have this percentage, bars, mark on track, inspect, mode, summary, milestone, information, notes, details, scroll to task. So all those things, they are very, very specific to Microsoft project. Right, then you have this option resource, then report, then project, then view, then format. So these are very, very specific. Okay, now I want you to notice something else. I want you to come to the bottom and notice this thing. You see this, there is an option here, new task, auto scheduled, manually scheduled. Do you
Yes.
notice this on my screen? So I go with the preference. To begin with, I go with the preference that is auto scheduled. I select this. The What is the meaning of this? It means that whenever you create a new task, it will be in the automatic scheduled mode. And if you select an option like this, manually scheduled, it would mean that after this option, if you create any new task, it will be manually scheduled. Okay, but we don't want this. So what we want is automatic scheduling. So you have set it to auto scheduled. Is it done?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I believe that now you are getting familiar with the screen. Okay, now we come to the right bottom corner. Do you see the right bottom corner? Do you see there are four the icons here? Do you see my cursor hovering here on the
Yeah.
right bottom corner? So I see that I'm currently in the Gantt chart, and if I click on the task usage, my screen changes. So do you see this change happening?
Hmm.
Change of screen. So basically, it is the same project, but my view is now changed. Different. Then I have this. That is the team planner.
Are those just extra little shortcuts instead of using the items on the far left-hand side, like calendar, Gantt chart, like in where those icons are? There's also a task sheet and a resource sheet. So are those just extra shortcuts?
Yes, those are not extra. Actually, they are the same shortcuts which are on the left hand side. But now these have been put here because these are even very frequently used. So the same shortcut which is there, like if I want to switch back to the Gantt chart view, I can click here at the right bottom, or I can click here, or I can even go to the menu. So I can do it three ways. Okay, but why they have been kept here, these four? Because these have been determined by the past usage that these are most highly used. Okay, I can click on the Gantt chart here. I can click on the resource sheet from here, right bottom. If I want to go to the Gantt chart view, I can go from here. I say Gantt chart, so I switch back to the Gantt chart. I go to the resource sheet, then I want to come back to the Gantt chart once again, so I click on the Gantt chart from the view bar. So I can come to any of these screens three ways: from the main menu, from the view bar, and also from the shortcut menu, which is on the extreme right bottom corner. So these four items have been placed there because these have been determined to be uh, highly useful in speeding up the task of the project planning. So during the planning stage, you need to use it so frequently. So they have been determined by the past usage, and they have been kept here based upon the feedback of the users. So so it's just getting better and better. So you would also find that highly useful to have them there again, so that you can access them very quickly. So they're the same. So is this in clear, guys?
Mhm.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Now what I'm going to do, that I'm going to um, tell you that how do we set up a project. See, whenever we set up a project, see, normally we may or may not know a start date. But by default, what happens that a project would always take up a start date. So it will take a start date based upon the system. So system means that today's date. So do you see a line here on your screen? So on my screen there is a green line here.
Yeah.
So you would also see that line on your screen also on the Gantt chart. So this green line is basically representative of today's date. So that's where the project will start from. So do you see a green or a red line? So what color is that line on your screen? Is it green?
Green.
Green. And Marilyn, on your screen, is it green? Is it the same?
Yes.
Okay, fine, great. So that is the today's date. Now it has taken today's date as the start date because I didn't tell any date where I should start planning from. But normally we don't plan like this. We plan much in advance. We don't plan today and we cannot execute the plan today. The simple fact being that we need some time for planning as well. Okay, so the planning itself takes some time. So what we do, that we plan when we have more time. So that is, we plan much ahead, far ahead. Okay, so that when we come to today, so the the plan is there and plan is reliable. Okay, so let's do this thing. Let us change the project date. Okay, now how do we change the project date? So I go to the top option project. Do you see the top option project? I click on the top option project.
Mhm.
Then there is an option called project information below that. Okay, you see this. So this is
Yeah.
highlighted here. And I click on this and up comes a pop-up. You see this pop-up coming up?
Yeah.
So in the pop-up, I can see there is an option which is called the start date. I can select it. And let's say I want to plan to start my project from 26th of October. We'll need that much time to plan and resource mobilization as well.
Mhm.
So I select 26th of October, which is a Monday, and then I say OK. And do you see this dashed line, this dash appear here after this Sunday? So that represents the start date. It will not show up, but if I change the start date to say 27th of October, do you see this dashed line here very clearly, distinctly between Monday and Tuesday? So basically that represents the start date of the project. Now, I hope you can see it distinctly.
No, it hasn't cropped up on.
So just change the project start date to 27th of October. You can see that on the time scale, when you reach 26th and 27th October, you can see that there is a dash here, a slightly dotted
Yeah,
line going down.
yeah,
So this
yeah.
is just for your notice and recognition. Just remember it, what it means. So it means the date from which the project is going to be planned from. Right. So is this thing clear, guys?
Yep.
Okay, great. Now let's start putting one single task and see that how it looks like. So when I put a task, I would like to put a name also. I say task 1 and I have to tell it the duration. But before I come to the duration column, what Microsoft Project does, it puts 1 day and it puts a question mark. So 1 day is something that it will put by default. It will always put a default duration. So you have to change it. So it puts a question mark as well. It says the question mark is estimated duration. It is not a final duration. So you should change it. So this is what the question mark means. So do you see a small little bar which is proportionate to the length of 1 day on the right hand side?
No, I haven't got this task thing yet.
No, no,
No,
you
sorry.
got to type it. You got to say task 1. You just type task 1. You just go to the task name column. Say task
Okay.
1. You
Yeah.
have to type it.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Okay, so even if you don't type anything into the duration column, so you will still get 1 day and it will put a question mark. Now it's put a start date and a finish date. Okay, it's put a start date and a finish date. So now if you say 2 days, you put 2D. So D is the abbreviation for days. So it would look like this. So is this clear? Start and finish date. So you are getting.
Yep.
Okay, do you see that the length of the task is proportionate to the duration? As you increase the duration, you can increase the duration by using this scroller like this. So make it 6 days and see that what happens. So it spans over the weekend. Okay, so do you see this thing?
Mhm.
So you have created a very simple project plan. You have put in one task in this project and it starts from 27th of October, and based upon the 6 days duration, it skips over the weekend and it finishes on 4th of November. Now, if you look at this thing carefully, so do you see the 6 days? Actually, on the calendar, it is 8 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It says 6 days. You know what it means, 6 days? It means that 6 days is the 6 working days, not the calendar duration. Because on the calendar, it could be like 8 days. But Microsoft project is only concerned with and project managers, they are usually concerned with only the working days when they input into the duration. So the duration would represent the number of the days actually that is needed to do the work. Okay. So it really doesn't matter that how many days they come in between. So they could be non-working days and the non-working days will be skipped. So is this in clear, guys? The non-working days
Yeah.
will be skipped. Now it's like this. Let me change the project start date. So when I change the project start date, the task will get reconfigured. So I'm switching it back to the Monday. I'm switching it back to 26th of October. Okay. So do you see the start date of this task also switching back to 26th of October? It's happening because it is being recalculated by Microsoft Project. So that is the benefit of the scheduling engine. Is this clear? Now let's do this thing. Let us reduce the duration to 5 days. So once you reduce the duration to 5 days, so do you see this Gantt bar? This Gantt bar comes back to Sunday. Now if you reduce it to 4 days, it would look like this. Is this clear? Have you just tried doing this, the same thing that I'm doing? Are you guys
Yeah.
doing it? Okay. Now,
I have, yeah.
okay. Just do it and see that what happens. So basically, you know, whenever you enter a number of the days, so Microsoft Project will look at the available number of days to work, and if it finds a certain amount of non-working days, it will skip those non-working days and come to the number of the working days so that it can find a relevant finish date. The finish date will be achieved only when the total number of the working days is equal to the duration entered by you. So it will end on a date where the total number of the working days is equal to the duration entered by you. So it really doesn't bother for the non-working days. The non-working days can be due to the weekend. It can be due to the holidays which have been marked, and it can also be due to the resource vacations. The person who is working on the task, even he could be on a vacation, and having it will introduce certain non-working days into the task, and then Microsoft Project will continue to shift to a finish date where it will be able to calculate that the total number of the working days is equal to the duration. Okay, so that is your task. So now let's do this thing. So we have entered one task with a duration 4D. Now you know the duration can be in various different kind of the abbreviations. So one of the abbreviations is like this. If you enter say 4 or say 1W, just see that what is the impact. 1W. Just enter 1W and see.
Yeah.
So you know it interprets 1W as 5 days.
Mhm.
Now enter 1MO and see that what happens on the Gantt bar.
Takes 1 month.
Yeah, so this 1 month is basically interpreted as 20 working days. If you notice that carefully. So it will span 4 weeks. So you know we have set our work weeks to 5 days. So actually we haven't set actually in this software, it is set by default, but we can change it to 6 days. We can change it to 5.5 days. We can change it to 7 days a week also. So it is something that will be done in the calendar setting for the project. So right now we are going with the default setting. In the default setting, our organization works 5 days a week, but we can have organization working 6 days a week. We can have organization working 5.5 days a week. We can have organization working 7 days a week also. So if the organization works more number of days per week, the duration, the finish date will come earlier. Okay, I mean that sooner it will finish because there will be more number of working days during those weeks. Okay, so the duration will be finished earlier. Okay, so is this thing clear? Now, if you enter here, say 8h, duration 8h, so you find that it occupies like 1 day. And if you enter 40h,
It's right.
yes. Now do the same, enter task 2 and now enter the duration as 5D. So do you guys notice on my screen the task 5? So is it useful and I mean is it usual and useful to enter durations like that? 2400 minutes? It might not
I
immediately
guess it
give you the
can. Sorry, yeah.
it might not give you the proper perception of time duration, you know. That's the problem here. So you use the time duration according to the length and proper perception possible. Okay. So don't enter a time duration which is like this, you know, that's going to cause interpretation problem to lot many people because many people won't be able to interpret that they have been given 5 days task. If you tell them you have to work for 2400 minutes, so they might be confused. So if you tell them you have to work for 40 days or you have 40 hours of work, 5 days of work or 1 week of work or 1 quarter month, so which is fine, which is understood. Okay. But we still do need this minutes unit because if we have smaller project like couple of days, say training programs or something where it is useful to measure the span of time or duration in the minutes, so which is fine. I say 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, so which is relevant in short-term projects. So in a longer duration projects, long-term projects, so you would use the time durations so like days, weeks, okay, or months, okay, to be relevant in the time span. So is this thing clear, guys?
Mm-hmm.
So use the time unit which is appropriate as per your project requirement, right? So you have the units of time requirement, 5 of them, they are in front of you. So the most granular one is the minutes. So you have then the hours, then days, then weeks, and then months. Is this clear?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Now let's move to the next exercise. You know how to delete a task. It's very simple. Just select the task or the task and hit the delete button. You see deleted on my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Now, if you want to undo something, do you know what is the shortcut key? What is the shortcut key to undo something in Microsoft Word?
Control Z.
Control Z. So you do the same here as well. So if you do Control Z, you get back what you just deleted. But there's one catch here. If you save something, suppose if you before Control Z you have done Control S, means that you have saved the file, then Control Z isn't going to work. So Control Z would work in case you haven't saved it. So if you save something, you tell Microsoft Project, look, I'm okay with the changes till this point, and get rid of the undo steps. Okay, I don't need those undo steps. Okay, so is this thing clear, guys?
Yeah.
So if you want to delete something, so you just select the rows and hit the delete button, it deletes, and you do a Control S, so it will save the file. And if you do a Control Z, now it won't. Okay, so is this thing clear?
Yep.
Okay, now let me show you something useful feature which you will need it as soon as necessary. Let me do this thing. Let me put a task here. You guys just watch. Okay, the situation is like this. I have a task here, okay, which is now visible to me on the Gantt chart. But somehow, just what happens is that I somehow don't remember where it is on the Gantt chart. So it is towards the left or right, and it's very difficult to locate it back sometimes, to get it back onto the Gantt chart, because I don't know where it is. Is it on the left or is it on the right? I have to scroll a lot just to find this out, and this I could be going entirely in the wrong direction or in the opposite direction to trying to find it. Now there is a feature here on the top, if you see, that I had asked you to put this. Do you see this arrow on the top, quick access tool basic? It says scroll to task. Do you have this? So I'm going to click this. So once I click this, what happens is that it immediately pulls back the task into the view. Do you see this happen? Okay, I am going to lose it again.
Yeah.
Okay, and I select the task and I click on this, and I click on this button, that is the scroll to task. And once I click this, it once again comes into the view instantly. Okay, so I
That
don't
is
have
very
to.
handy.
Yeah. So I believe that you will appreciate this, and this is something which I believe was not there in 2007. So okay, so scroll to task, you have to, I made you put it on to the quick access basic, because when you are planning, you might have to shift and scroll between various tasks. Okay, some tasks could be there on the right or left. So each time you select a task and click on the scroll to task button, it's going to bring it back in the view. Okay, if it is on the right or left, it will bring it right on the view. So that's going to help a lot. So just keep this in your mind. So that's something which is very handy. Now there is another button here which is on the top. It says print preview. And you know what is the shortcut for print preview in Word? If you want to print something, if you want to preview something for print, so what is the shortcut in Word or Excel?
I don't actually know. Control P? I don't know.
Control P, yes. So Control P works here as well in the same way. Just do a Control P and see that what's coming up on your screen. Okay, so you can see a print preview. Okay, and if you have enough space on the screen, so you'll be able to see it like this. So print preview, and Also, it gives you the option to select a printer, which printer you want. You can select a PDF writer, you can select an XPS document writer, which is a virtual printer. Okay, it creates XPS file. Are you guys aware of XPS file?
No.
.xpx file? No, you are not aware. So just look at your printer list. Do you have this Microsoft XPS document writer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have it there, but I've never used it.
Okay, okay. So I'll just show you that what is the use. So you'll find it very handy because I believe that you understand PDF files. You have used PDF files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So PDF files is a proprietary format created by a company called Adobe. Now XPS file is an answer to PDF. You don't have to pay for this. Okay, if you want to create XPS file, it comes inbuilt into your Windows, and if you select this as a virtual printer, so you can actually print this file into .xps file, and it's very compact. And you don't need any software to install to read this file. It can be read in Internet Explorer. See this. I'm going to print this. I select this view, okay, and I click on the print button. Now print button, once I print, it's going to ask me the name of the XPS file, and I say test, T-E-S-T test. I will create a test file, test.xps. So once I create this file, so this file gets created on the destination folder which I mentioned, and it pushes it into the Internet Explorer and shows it to me. And this is the view that I get. So this is a view which shows me a simulated printout. Okay, and I can resize this view for you to see. So you can see the whole page here. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
So it says simulated page. Okay, so you can send the XPS file to any person as an attachment, just like you would send a PDF file. And the advantage of the XPS file is that it is viewable in any browser. So it is viewable in Chrome browser also with a little bit of plugin, and by default it is viewable in the um, Internet Explorer browser. So is this clear, guys? Is this okay? This is good.
Yeah.
Did you get your XPS file as an output?
Yeah.
Now the advantage is that instead of taking, paper-based printout, you can actually print to an XPS file and see that how the print is shaping up. So if you don't like the print, you can just reject it. And when you send the XPS file to another person, the person can not only view the file, the person can also take a printout from here itself. So if you want to print from here, you can go to the option file and then print. Okay, so you don't have to go into the Microsoft project once again. So you can do a control P here as well. So if you take a control P, this will go into the printer. Now this time you can select a physical printer. So once you select a physical printer, so what happens, you get the pages that you want to print. So you can also select the number of pages. You can do some subset. So if there are 10 XPS pages, you just select one page, two page, or three page, as many pages which you want to see on the physical printout. Okay, so that is the virtual printer. So XPS is a virtual printer. Now, not only this, we can, just like in Excel, we can do a page setup. Now let me show you what is there in the page setup. Now, do you see something here which is called the legend? What is the purpose of this legend? As you can see on my screen, it's not very difficult to guess. Actually, this is for the educative person, for the educational purpose of any person who is not aware of the various symbols. So that person can look at the symbol and can interpret what it means. What does the Gantt chart mean? Now, the problem is that this is going to be printed on every page. Okay. So it is fine, but if you don't want to waste so many pages, so you can switch it off. So how you can switch it off? You go to the page setup, then you go to the option legend and you say none. Once you say okay, so this just switches off from the available page. So this will be removed from the available page. Is this clear, guys? So can you set this up properly? And not only that, you can set up the margins and you can set up the size of the page. You can adjust the percentage. You can set it up in the portrait mode. So if you set it up in the portrait mode, so that prints vertically. And if you set it up in the landscape mode, the printout would come horizontally. So if you have more columns to take care of, so you can print it in the landscape. And if you think that you have more data in the rows than in the columns, so you can print it in the portrait mode. So if you print it in the portrait mode, it looks like this. Okay. And you can adjust the page setup. You can adjust the size. If I say adjust to 85%, so the size reduces. Okay. So that's up to you and how much size you are comfortable with, so that you can know that if a particular size is comfortable for you, you go for that size, and so that you can still read it. So is this thing clear, guys?
Yeah.
So you can take a printout anytime you wish to. Okay. So this is from the shortcut also. In the shortcut you have a lens which is on top of a page. It is print preview. It will take you the print preview menu. And if you want to come back to the Gantt chart view, so you click on the back arrow and it will bring you back to the Gantt chart. Okay, so now you know how to put a task, how to set the project date. So you would always set a project date before you start to plan, so that you can see a relevant finish date. So because each time you put a task, it will show you a finish date. Now the finish date will be based upon the start date of the task, and it will be also based upon the duration of the task, so that it is relevant for you to see. Okay, so this is clear.
Yep.
Okay, now let's move to the next very important thing. So we are going to understand that how do we put multiple tasks on a project plan, and how do we group them, and what is the relevance of the grouping, which gives you the group summary. Okay, so it's like this. I put one more task here, task 2. Okay, this is a 4-day task. I put task 3. This is 5-day task. Now I have another set of tasks which is task 4, 5, 6, task 4, task 5, task 6. I have another group of tasks, task 7, task 8, task 9. So these are 3 groups of tasks. Now I could be starting my planning like this. What I did, that I created a flat to-do list. Okay, then I realized that there are certain tasks which are part of a group, and they are very much relevant to be done as a group. So they have to be grouped together so as to understand their total estimates and their total durations. So I created a flat to-do list like this. Now these are in the groups of 3 or 4, or this can be in the group of 4 plus 5, or so I'm saying that okay, let's take 3 groups. Now I have to group the first one. So what do I do? That just above task 1 I insert a blank row. Okay, do you see this task 1 which is highlighted right now?
Yep.
Okay, now what do I do? That I select this row and I hit the insert button. Do you see the insert button on your keyboard? Okay, I press the button, insert button on the keyboard. So it inserts a blank row. So can you see this blank row? You see this blank row just above task 1?
Yes.
Okay, now what do I do?
Hello. So Joy, actually, I don't have an insert button on my keyboard because I'm using a Mac, but running Windows on it. So, is there any other way to do it?
I have no idea about the Mac actually. I had never imagined that someone would be using. So I believe that, but how do you insert anything in Mac? I mean, like in the Word, if you want to insert
Normally in
something.
Excel, you have the option of doing a right click and insert.
So here
Uh,
you can do it. Okay, just do a right click here. See, you have this. You can use this insert task. You have
okay,
this.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You have
same
this
thing.
insert task. So
Yeah.
I believe that there would be an insert button in Mac as well. Mac should have an insert button. Why not?
No, it doesn't have an insert.
Okay, now it's just too late. I mean, if Steve Jobs was around, you could have told him to put it there. Okay,
Maybe that's
never
true.
mind. So you can use this
And
option.
you
So
can, you
okay,
can tell Tim to.
I believe that Bill Gates was very smart enough to put this insert task. Okay, so because he knew that Steve Jobs would save one button, so he inserted this option. Okay,
Yeah.
so you can use this option. You just right click
Mhm.
here and you just say insert task and you can insert a task. Okay,
Sure.
so it would come up like this. It will put some values there which you actually don't need. Now the benefit of the insert button is that it puts in a very clean insert. I don't want to have anything on my blank row. Okay, now when you insert a new task, so it inserts, it says new task and duration and start and finish like this, so which I really don't need, but it's not a big issue. I can fix it. So okay, I go with this. I say that okay, insert a new task. Okay, now I need to edit this. Now this new task is going to serve as a group summary. Okay, so it would be like this. I say group task 1. Now group task 1 is actually, it is a group task, but it is still not functioning like a group task. The problem is that it still doesn't know that it is the group task and it is supposed to be grouping the 3 tasks below it, 1, 2, 3. So here, what do I do? That I select the 3 tasks simultaneously using my cursor button. I mean, by using my mouse cursor and selecting them from the left. Okay. And after doing that, I hit the indent button. So there is an indent button at the top. If you look carefully after selecting this, you go to the
Mhm.
indent button. So I believe that you can see this.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you press on the indent, so do you see that a change has happened?
Uh-huh. It's taken. Yeah.
Yeah, now you see the finish date. Finish date,
It's
as
taken
you
the
can see.
maximum of the three tasks.
Yes, absolutely right. Because the group would finish when the last task in the group finishes. So whichever is the longest one, that would be, or whichever is the last one, that would be giving it the finish date. The earliest task gives it the start date and mix. Now this is group task 1. Now what I'm going to do, that I'm going to group this into 3. So 1 to 3 is part of one group, 4 5 6 is part of another group, and 7 8 9 is part of another group. So it's like this. I again go to the row number 5 and then I say insert task. Insert task would put another new task here, but as you can see, it is coming in as indented because Microsoft Project thinks that you are inserting a group which should be below the task one. Actually, it is not so like that. I have to outdent it, which I'm going to show you. First, let me type out the name. Group task 2. But group task 2 is supposed to be grouping task 4, 5, 6, and it's not a subtask of group task 1. So what do I do is I select group task 1, and what do I do? I shift it towards the left. I use the tool
Left
outdent.
and right.
Do you see the outdent tool here on the top? I'm placing my cursor
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
Okay. As I outdent, it goes towards the left. Now I need to do the same thing for 4, 5, 6. I need to indent this. So when I indent this, so it tells group task to look, you are the boss. So you got to summarize these three. So I indent. So once I indent this, so it creates the group task as a group summary task. So do you see this? Then this now becomes bold. All the duration, start, finish, is once again being taken from the subtask below it. And do you see on the right hand side there is another group task, that bar that comes up. So this looks like a sort of crowbar. Okay, so this is a thin black and it has got two ends. So which you can change in the formatting and looks, but for the timing by default it looks like that. Now I'm going to do the same thing here for task 7, 8, 9. I'm going to insert a task and then I'm going to say group task 3. And then I'm saying outdent and then I indent 7, 8, 9. So when I indent 7, 8, 9, so right now what I have here, you see it is a very neat and clean way of planning the project. So I have, these are called logical grouping, because in a project if you have something called planning, so do you think planning is one single task? No, actually planning is not a single task, but planning is a group of tasks which are done together as part of the planning group. So that's why we need to group the tasks within the project. So this is the grouping. So can you do it, guys? Just like the one I've done on my screen. Can you just replicate this on your screen?
Yep, we're done.
Okay, great. Now I will show you what is the relevance of grouping here by setting up the relationship. Now I'm sure that group 2 will be done after group 1. Okay, now it means that group 2 would start after the group 1 is finished. So when is group 1 finishing? 2nd of November. So it means that the start date of the group 2 would change. Is this thing clear? Start date of group 2 would change.
Yep.
Okay, so it's like this. I go to this column called predecessor. Okay, I'm just going to show you that what happens when I set up a relation, but I'm going to come to the relationship in a while. But I'm just going to
Hello.
show you that how the groups are usually configured. Yeah, you have any question right now? Yes, tell me.
Yeah, Sujoy, actually, just I have the dates fixed exactly how you fixed them for the group task 1, which is 5 days,
Hmm,
1 day, 4 day, 5 day for task 1 to 3.
hmm, hmm.
And but then the start day for me is ending on the 30th for some reason.
No, which is fine. Actually, I'll just tell you, I need to configure something at my end. So 30th is
Because
fine
yours is
actually.
going 1 day extra. I mean, basically, if it
Yeah,
ends
mine
on
is
the
taking
first,
one
it's
day
going
extra.
to second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So yours is correct, and mine is something which I need to fix here. I know
Okay.
this thing. See, when I say 1 day, 1 day should finish, start and finish on the 27th. I mean 26th of October. It should
Correct.
be 26th. I need to fix something here. Let me do it quickly, and then I will explain to you. Actually, there are certain default times which I need to fix here. Okay. So wait for 20 Monday, January. I'll explain this to you later on. So I need to
Sure.
fix here. So right now it's like this. Okay. So
Yeah.
so this is like what you have on your screen and my screen. Now it is correlated. I'll explain to you what I have done. Okay. Now group 1 is the predecessor to group task 2, means that group task or any task within the group 2 can only be done after the entire lot of group 1 is finished. Like I say that group 1 is design and group 2 is planning. So first I design, then I plan. So what I do, I say that group 2 has a predecessor which is group task 1. Now do you see the row number on which group task 1 is placed. Row number. Can you tell me the row number where group task 1 is placed? Just like you have row number in the Excel.
5? Sorry, is it 5?
It is on the row number 1. 1.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So what do I say is that I say 1. Its predecessor is on the row number. Now do you see that the start date for group 2 has changed to 2nd November? And you can see on the Gantt chart also something has happened here on the Gantt chart. It shows one arrow starting from group 1 and going to the start of group 2. You see this?
Yep.
Okay, so it's like I'm going to undo it. I'm going to show you the picture before. So before this, the start date of group 2 was 26 October, but after setting up the relationship, it is pushed towards 2nd of November, right? So does it look good now? I hope you understand that how it looks on the Gantt chart and how it looks here on the Gantt entry view. So in the entry view, I have just told that it is to be configured like this. It will start after the task which is on the row number 1. Now I do the same thing with the group task 3. I say that group task 3 would start after the group task 2. No, so what do I put in the predecessor column of the group task 3?
A 5?
Yes, I put 5 here. So when I put 5, immediately it sets up a relationship and it pushes. It pushes it towards the right. And you see the date here, it has calculated the date that it should start on the 9th because it's a weekend. The weekend is picked, is skipped. Okay, so it skips the weekend and it starts on 9th, which I believe is a Monday, and the 7th, 8 are they are skipped. Okay, so it starts from 2nd, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8 is Saturday and Sunday, and this starts from 9th. So this is how it is calculating. So now do you see that what is the relevance of the group? So basically the relevance of the group is that the bunch of the tasks which are under the group, they move like a lot. They move like one single lot. Okay, so they behave like one group. So they move together because that's a logical group. Okay, now let me do this thing. I'm going to show you the real value of the automatic scheduling. So it's like this. I'm going to insert one more task below task 3. Okay, and with a greater duration. So it should update the groups which are falling after task 2, task 1. So that is 2 and 3. Let's see this. I insert a blank row here or insert task here, and then I say task 4 or I say task 3A, and I say that it is a 6 days task. When I say 6 days task, do you see that what happens to group 2?
It extends to 11th instead of 2nd.
Yeah. So when I insert a bigger task, so this is pushing the total duration of the group task 1 to 6 days. The finish date is pushed to 2nd of November. So it goes to the next date. So if I increase the duration to say 7 days, then what happens? So it is continuing to push. So it pushes the entire group. The entire group, say the group 2 and 3, they are moving together. That is the relevance of the grouping. Okay. So is this clear? So can you group the task like this, just as on my screen? Can you do this exercise?
Yeah.
So just do it and let me know that when you've done it.
Done. Are we taking a break?
You would like to take a break? Yeah, fine. So we can take a break for say 10 minutes. That's
Okay,
okay.
sure, sure. 5 minutes would be fine, but
Oh yeah, okay, fine.
whatever.
You take 5 minutes break. I'm here. So
Okay.
just meanwhile, make sure that you have done this. Okay.
Yeah, this is done already.
Okay, okay, great.
I'm done too, so I'll take a 5-minute break. Okay.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Okay, are we good to start again?
Yep.
Okay, great. So what we have done that we have created group task, and within the group we have put the subtask. Now the group summary is displayed on the row on which the group task is there. So this 8 days is a summary. So basically if you look at 8 days, it's not a total actually. It's not a sort of linear total. This is based upon the scheduling basically. Okay. Now if we put relation between the task, suppose if there is task 2 which happens after task 1 and task 3 happens after task 2 and task 3a happens after task 3. So how do we do it basically? So this is one of the simplest relationship that we can put, that is the finish to start. So one task finishes, another one starts. Okay, so let's do it. So in the task 2 I'm going to put the row number 2. So what I'm saying is that the task 2 has a predecessor task 1, means that when task 1 finishes, task 2 can be started, right? So task 2 has a predecessor which is standing on or which is placed on row number 2. I say 2fs, I say 3fs, then I say 4fs. So this way I relate all these four tasks, and if you look at the duration carefully, now the duration seems like a total. It seems like a linear total. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 5 is 10, plus 8 is 18 days. Because these are sequenced. Okay. Do you see this happening on my screen?
Yeah.
So this is due to the relationship. Okay. Now finish to start relationship is one of the most common relationship which we all know, that one task finishes and the task starts. So the finish time of one task controls the start time of another task. Okay, so as you can see, if I vary the duration, say, if I vary the duration to say 3 days, so it reduces the total duration of the group task. Okay, and this calculates the finish date of the group task as well. And this has an impact on the overall schedule. So that is the schedule of the entire project. Okay, but if you want to see the schedule of the overall project, what you got to do is you got to expose the row number 0. Okay, now there is row number 0, which is a special row, which is the row of the project. Now, where is this row? This is hidden from view at this point of time. So what I want you to do is click on format. So on the top, there is an option called format. In the format, there is an option, there is a checkbox option towards the right, which is called a project summary task. You see this here, project summary task.
Yeah.
So you click on this project summary task and you will immediately see a row number 0 come up. And row number
Mm-hmm.
0 will have a start date which is 26 October 9, and then it will have a finish date. And this finish date will be taken from the task which ends in the last. Okay. So wherever this task is, so this task will be most probably in the group 3, and in the group 3 it will be the latest task. Okay. The task which finishes in the last. So the maximum finish date of the project is derived from the last finishing task. And there is something called here outline number. You see this outline number? Outline number gives you a unique addressing of the task. So once you check on this, you will see this numbering coming up. You see this numbering
Mm-hmm.
1.1, 1.2. So okay, so 1 is the parent. In the group 2, 2 is the parent. So everything is numbered as 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. Okay, so this is the numbering for the group. And you can have up to n numbers, so it is not that it is limited up to 2 levels. Suppose there is task 9 and task 9 has further 2 subtasks. Okay, so it's like this. Now how to make them as subtask of task number 9? I select these two, right? And then I go to the option task, and from the task I select the option which is called
Right, right.
write indent. So once I do write indent, it immediately becomes a summary task. So it summarizes. Okay. It summarizes the two tasks, which is subtask 1, subtask 2. And it gets a numbering 3.3.1, 3.3.2. Now, if I set up a relation between these two tasks, I say that, okay, subtask 3.3.2 would happen after 3.3.1. I say its predecessor is on the row number 14. If I do it like this, you will immediately see that subtask 9, okay, it gets its own summary. So a task can have a subtask as well. So there can be n number of requirement, but usually what happens that we are up to a depth, good up to a depth of 3 or 4 sub levels. So which is good for understanding most of the project plan. So this whole thing is called a work breakdown structure. Okay. So the work breakdown structure is basically a logical representation of the grouped tasks which are easier to estimate for duration and for resources. So we have estimated the duration for each of these tasks. Okay, so this is good to have it broken down so that we can estimate them correctly. Right, so is this thing clear? When you would like
Yeah.
to break down? So you would like to break down the largest chunks of any task so that the lower chunks cannot be broken down any further and they are easier to estimate for their duration, for their resources. You don't have to estimate the cost, you just have to estimate. I mean, you have to just put in the proper rate of the resources, and Microsoft project will calculate the cost and the work effort for all the tasks which have been allotted the resources. So we'll see that in a while. But before that, I want to show you something that when you have a project plan and you want to see the timeline view, okay, after you created the plan, so you should only put the summary task like group task 1. You right click this one and it says add to timeline.
How do you add the timeline?
Yeah, so that's what I showed you. You right click on group task 1. Did you notice that there is a menu that comes up? And
Uh-huh.
if you go to the bottom of the menu, so there is an
Add.
option add to timeline. You see
Mm-hmm.
this add to timeline here. I similarly do this for the group task 2, add to timeline. You see the group task 2 also coming up on the timeline. Then I do the same for the group task 3, add to timeline. And group task 3 also comes up on the timeline. Now I'll have to give it some contrasting color. So what do I do that I select the group task 1 and there is a toolbar which comes up, that is the format. Do you see this format coming up? So I click on this becomes background yellow, and foreground, that is the text color. I give it a little bit of dark color, and then I give it a background color as well. I select, but I would select a different color. I would select this color, and then group task 3, I would select a different color for this. Okay, so that all of them have three backgrounds, three different color backgrounds. So they look good and contrasting. Okay, is this fine? Okay,
Yep.
so that gives you a bird's eye view of the project plan. Now, you have to also keep in mind, see, when you are doing a project, so you had an agreement with the client. Are you guys getting my voice?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. So, so what you have is that you have to look at your agreement and you have to find out that where are the milestones. So suppose there is a milestone at the end of every group. So you can insert a milestone here as well. Okay, to insert the milestone, we do the same thing. I go to this and then what I do, I insert a blank row. Okay, so I insert a blank row after every group like this. And milestones are usually what? Milestones are usually the points where you have accomplished something. So you say group task 1 finished. And milestones, they have duration 0 and they are supposed to be at the same level as the group. Okay, so milestone would look like this, and milestone's predecessor would be the group itself. Like the group 1 would be the predecessor of milestone, so that it comes at a relevant date. So it would look like this. Okay, and similarly I do for group 2, indent. Then I do it for group task, indent. Okay, and I rename it to group task 2 finished, and then this is group task 3 finished, and its predecessor would be the group task 2 itself, say row number 7, and for this it will be row number 12. Okay, so it's like this. So now the milestone is not there on the view, on the timeline view. So because when you had created the timeline view, you didn't add the milestones. So what you can do, you can add the milestones like this. You select group 1 milestone, group 2 milestone. You can select them at once. If you want to select multiple, so you can press the control key. I believe that you know how to selectively take out rows and select them. Just like you would do in Excel, you would press the control key and then you will click on the mouse. Okay. So once you press the control key and click on the mouse, these three rows will be selected differently, and you right click and you select the option add to timeline. Do you see my screen? Okay. Now, as soon as I do this, you will see that the milestones have been added onto the timeline. You see this? Now I can give some beautiful color to the milestones so that the milestones are visible, highly visible. So I put some color and okay, do you see this color coming up? Now this makes it highly visible. Okay, if you want to take it to the top, you can just drag it a little bit and place it like this. You see that you see me dragging?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you just place it like this. So you know this shows on the timeline that what have you achieved by doing this group. So when you have achieved. So basically milestones show you the achievement. So what is produced here once you do the task in the group one? What is the deliverable which is ready? Do you see the dates as well? So those are the, you can say those are the major milestones. So major milestones are the ones which have a connection with the payment. So the customer or the client or the end user understands that what is the progress of the work done in the project, and that's how a project would be planned, so that you know that on. But suppose if your milestone date doesn't fit in with the agreement, so what do? You would apply more resources to a task and reduce the task duration. So once you reduce the task duration, so that particular task will have That particular task will have its duration reduced by increased workforces, increased work efforts. Yeah, you are there. Can you hear me? Are you getting my
Yes.
voice? Okay, great.
Yes.
So, could you do this coloring? I mean, can you make it beautiful? So you have to give some contrasting color so that it is highly visible. And now let me show you something. You can take it to the PowerPoint as well. If you want to take it to the PowerPoint, just right click on the
Excuse
blank
me.
area. Yeah, tell me.
Can you just show me again how to make the milestone diamond red?
Yes, sure. You just select it. You just
Yeah.
select. You just select this group. I mean this
Yeah.
milestone.
Yeah.
Now you will see there are two colors here. One is the background color, one is the foreground color. If you select the
Oh.
background color, okay, so that will go to the milestone, and if you select the
Oh, I
foreground
see.
color, that will go to the text. Now, if I'm going to make the text as a green, I select the foreground color as green. Okay, I can select the foreground color as green. I
Got
select
it.
this
Thank
foreground
you.
color as green. Okay, so now that becomes green, and the milestone becomes a bright red. So you know that bright red, it is highly visible. So whenever you make this, you make sure that you use the kind of colors which are highly visible and contrasting, and it makes it easier for people to read it. So normally you would share this with the client because the client is not interested in the nitty-gritties of the project work that you would be doing, because the client only understand that what you are achieving. Okay, so this is the way the things are done in the real world, and the view timeline is a very important. So I believe, Madeline, you find it highly useful because this is something which is new for you. This was not
Yes.
there, if you recall. Okay, now you can send it to someone. Like this, you just copy it full size. So full size, when you copy it full size, you copy the entire thing in its full size, and you basically you can save it as a JPEG file, you can mail it, or you can paste it in a presentation like this. I will show you how to paste it in a presentation. So you go to a blank slide. Okay, just right click here and you do a control V. So once you do a control V here, so it comes here. So you can make a presentation here. Okay, so it goes into the presentation. Now, other thing that you can do, you can open any of your say image processing software, and you can paste it here. So as you can see, it comes in as a one single piece. So you can save it as a JPEG file or BMP file or JPEG file or whatever that is relevant. So usually it would be a JPEG file because JPEG files are compact in size. So is this thing clear?
Mhm.
So you can save a JPEG file and you can share it via email. So this is how you do. Now if you don't want to see the timeline, what you can do, that you can go to this option view and you can switch off the timeline. Okay, just like this. So if you want to see the timeline once again, you see the option here on your Gantt bar, just below. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see this timeline. You click on this, it's only the timeline that comes up. You can see only the timeline. So you have the entire screen to the timeline only. If you want to switch back to the Gantt bar, so you click on the option Gantt chart once again, so it comes back on. Now, if you want to see the calendar, if you go to the calendar, you can see that it has created a calendar which looks like a planner. Okay, so this has put all the tasks here onto a sort of calendar. If you want, you can print this view by pressing Control P. Okay, so this shows you that where it has placed the task here. Okay, so all that is here. Gantt chart, Gantt view. If you want to see the network diagram, you can see the network diagram. So the network diagram, it shows you the precedence. Okay. Is this clear, guys?
Hmm.
So you are hands-on till this point. I believe that you are doing this with me.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have any questions till this point?
No? Good.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to teach you the dependency, that is the relationship. Okay. So there is one thing, very important thing. If you don't want to see the details of a group, you just click here on on the small little this I would call it a sort of handle, and you know it collapses. It collapses all the subtasks. Okay. Now you have a handle in front of the project as well. So if you click on this, it just collapses. So, okay, so what you have is just the project bar. So this shows you the totals at the project level. So how does the project plan looks like? It's like this. Okay, now I'm going to show you the relationship, that how the various relationships and what is their relevance in the real life and how you can put them here. Okay, so for that I will collapse it and I will start with a fresh row. So the basic relationship finish to start is clear. I believe that you know that one task finishes and other starts. Okay. So can you give me an example of finish to start? Example in real life. So that one task finishes and other starts.
You have to build the frame of a house before you can put the roof on top.
Absolutely. Like I would say that I'll have to first lay the foundation of a building before I can start the construction of the ground floor. Okay, so that's finish to start. So we all know that finish to start. And let me tell you, finish to start is one of the most common. So it's like this. And do you see these arrows? So it starts from the finish side of the predecessor task. So which is the predecessor task? Lay foundation, because it controls the start time of the successor task. So task which is task number 8 is the successor task because its start time is being controlled by the finish time of the predecessor task. Now let's do this thing. I'm going to show you a start to start relationship. Here the abbreviation used is SS. I say that the task on the row number 24 is the predecessor to task number 2 and it is in a start to start relationship. So do you see it? Do you see the arrow? Did you notice the arrow? Okay, it is represented like this, that there is a start arrow coming from the predecessor and going to the tip of the successor or start side. So the start time of the predecessor is controlling the start time of the successor. So what does it mean? So can you tell me some real life example where it is configured like that? Just think of it where you would start two tasks simultaneously.
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
No, no example in a start to start. Yes, there will be a start to start.
I guess
You,
if you keeping on the same construction analogy, if you had a house with many rooms and you
Mhm,
had each room as a task to paint, you
mhm.
could start both rooms at the same time if you had different resources doing each room.
Yeah, that is fine. But can I paint the rooms independently? Means on different times?
Oh
So
yes, you
there's no
can.
trigger. There is no trigger actually here.
There's no
Now
trigger.
let me tell you where situation. See, I am starting to test my software. Okay. There is one way of fixing the software is that I do the fixing at the end. But software is not a physical item. See, two people can grab it at the same time and they can do their job because it's not a physical item. It is a pieces of code. So one piece of code has been tested and the bugs have been listed for it, and that is put into some sort of listing directory, and the developer comes up, and what he does, he looks at the listing of the bugs and he starts to fix it. Okay, so he grabs one part of the software, okay, while the rest of it is being tested, and he starts to fix the bug. So this way I save time. See how, if the testing took 10 days and if the fixing took if the testing took 5 days and the fixing took 5 days, it will total up to 10 days. But in a start to start relationship, I can finish I can finish both of them at the same time. So that will be in almost like 5 days. Okay. So there is one more question here. The question is that would I need to fix something if I'm not testing it?
No.
Yes, absolutely right. I wouldn't be able to fix something if I'm not testing, because no, the bug fixing activity is being triggered by the bug testing activity,
Testing.
because the testing is telling me that look, these are the bugs. So once I see the bugs, I need to start to fix it. Now see the advantage here. Just see the advantage in a start to start relation. I'm saving time. Do you see this total in the group summary? 5 days. Now if I change the relationship to finish to start, do you see the total? 10 days. But technically it doesn't make a difference to the software, because if I fix all the bugs after I'm done with the testing, it will not affect the quality or the cost. But the thing is that it will be time wise, it will be very inefficient. My project will take 5 more or many more days to finish, because I am doing something one after the other. So but if I do something in parallel, so that would save me time. Now, technically, it is feasible. So I must base this relationship upon my technical knowledge. I say that, okay, while the rest of the software is being tested, one part of it can be grabbed, and this can be fixed by the developer at the same time. Okay, so I can put up the relation like 25 SS, and it is there. Okay, okay. One more thing, do you notice here that when I say 25 FS, the FS symbol doesn't stick around here. The FS abbreviation, it just disappears. You know why?
Default unit is FS.
Yes, default is FS. Now let me tell you what used to happen in real life. Just imagine the times when there was no software. Okay. The project managers or the planners were still doing these graphs and charts, but they were doing it manually. Okay, they were still being done. They were needed to plan the project in advance. So they would be using huge sheets of paper to draw out these things, or they will have some pre-printed formats on which they will put in the information. Now what happened is that once they put in the information, okay, so since finish to start was so common that they will save their time and energy by not writing FS. So anybody that looked at the plan would know that if something is not here, it just only has the row number. So that's supposed to be finished to start. Okay, if something looked at this start to start relationship, only the start to start will be written here. Okay, now do you see the total time in the start to start summary? Okay, so that is 5 days. Okay, so that is the advantage when you know that you can start two tasks simultaneously. But there is a trigger here. It's not that you put multiple tasks in a start to start relationship without any trigger. The trigger has to be there. Now the trigger for the bug fixing is bug testing, because I know that I wouldn't be doing bug fixing without testing it. Okay, if the start date of the bug testing changes, so should the date for the bug fixing as well. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the bug testing as a summary, as a sort of, you can say, as a successor to the task on row number 22. I say 22 FS. Now then what happens? The start date of bug testing changes, and this in turn changes the start date of bug fixing as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is something which is very much needed here. And if I remove this relationship, it comes back. Which one? The bug testing. And it also brings along the bug fixing with it. Okay, now you guys, can you give me any example from your own projects where you have a start to start relationship, where the condition of the trigger is also fulfilled?
Let's say example for when you have to level concrete, then you have to start pouring, and then at one end you can do the leveling and at the other end you can do the pouring, but pouring has to
Yes,
be the trigger.
yes. Now pour concrete is the trigger, because if you put this, because this is something like this, pour concrete. Because we know that if you don't level the concrete immediately, it's going to form lumps, and that's going to look very odd. So now the thing is that this level concrete task is being triggered by pour concrete. So one guy is pouring from the other end, the other group of people, they start leveling it as soon as possible. Okay, so they must do it. So it has a start to start trigger. So pour concrete, level concrete, start to start. So that's a trigger. Okay, it should start leveling. The leveling job should start immediately as soon as the pouring happens. Okay, so is this clear to both of you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I come to the third one. So say task 1, 10 days duration. Task 2, let's say 4 days duration. And it is configured like this. So both the dates, I mean both the tasks, they have dates which have been set up to finish at the same time. So where do you think is the advantage?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Our question is that both the tasks, they have been configured to finish on the same date. Means that their finish dates have been related. You see this carefully. 29FF. So 29 is the predecessor and finish to finish is the relationship number.
Yep.
Yeah, seen it? Have you seen any example of where you would finish to finish at the same time?
trying to think.
Wouldn't bug testing and fixing be a similar example?
No, actually, the bug testing should start immediately. Now, let me tell you this. Let me tell you an example, another example, so you can relate to it. See, I am developing a software, right? And along with the software, I need a manual to go with it. Now, the technical writer comes to me, he asks me, sir, when do I start the manual? I tell him, look, it's not important when you start, but it's very important that you finish the manual as soon as the software development finishes. Does it sound good? Because I need both of them to be packaged together and given to the client. Now it's like this.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay, it's not important that when the user manual is started, it is important that it finishes at the same time. So, it's up to the manual writer to figure that out. Okay, so he goes to the software development team lead and asks him, so when you guys are finishing? He says, look, we are finishing on the 6th of November. So he says that, okay, I'll also finish on 6th of November. And then he estimates his number of days and he counts backward from the finish date. And he determines that he should approximately start on 3rd of November. Now 3rd of November or 2nd November is an approximate date, but 6th November is fixed. It should be finished on the 6th of November. So he would put in some buffer also, that's okay, some extra time. So he would start on 3rd of November. He will start to look at the screens already developed and he will slowly and slowly catch up. And on the last day, he will catch up with any kind of development work which is happening on the last day. And his manual as well as the software is ready. So these two are ready to be packaged and delivered to the client. So that's how it that's how it. Now you can have a third task also, which is in a finish to start relationship. What is that task? Training. So you can say training. Now, if training is I mean 4-day task, you would put it up in a relationship with 29. So what is the 29? That is 9.3, develop software. So as soon as the software development is finished and you know very well that user manual is also ready, you need both. So just for the sake of clarity, you can say 29 comma 30. That makes your project line more readable. So if you translate it back into English, so you know what it means for 9.5. It means that 9.5 can be started when the software is ready and the user manual is also ready. So though the date is being derived from the software development, it can be derived from there. Right. But the thing is that you are putting a condition. If by chance, if the user manual is not ready, then what? Can you start the training? No. So you need both here. So both of them are predecessor to the training. So training can only start only if you have the software as well as the user manual, both of them available at the same time. If any one of them is delayed, you cannot have the training take off. So does it look good, guys? So here
Yes.
you have learned finish to start, you have learned start to start, and then you have also seen that how you can have finish to finish with along with multiple predecessors. So you need multiple inputs to the training, two inputs. What two inputs? A software and the user manual. So if any one of them is missing, so your training cannot start. So is that relevant? Okay. Now let's do this thing. We have one more kind of a relationship which is called the start to finish kind relationship. Okay, so that would look like this. So here it says the start time is controlling the finish time. So which is the predecessor here? Let me mark it out. So you got to look at this very carefully. The start time of P dash P, that is the predecessor, is controlling the finish time of the successor. So when do you think you would have this kind of a relationship? Start to finish. Okay, let me tell you a story. The story goes like this. You have to catch a flight at 10 a.m. Right? The time of the flight is fixed and you have been told that this is being an international flight. You must arrive at the airport 3 hours prior for check-in and the immigration procedures. Right? So listen to the story carefully. Flight time is 10 a.m. and you have to arrive at the airport 3 hours prior to the flight. Okay, so when you should finish arriving at the airport?
1 hour before the flight time.
No, I told you 3 hours before the flight time.
3 hours before.
Yeah. So what would be that time?
If the flight's at 10,
Yeah.
7.
7 a.m. is the time when you should arrive. Now it's like this. It takes you 1 hour from your home to travel to the airport. So when you should start from your home?
6.
6. Right, fine. So what do? You call your usual cab driver, right? You tell this guy,
Mhm.
look, I need to go to the airport. Please pick me at 6 a.m. So this cab driver takes around 1 hour from his home to reach your place. So when he should start from his home?
5.
Absolutely right. Now if this guy tells you, look, I can pick you up at 6:30, is it going to work for you? Are you going to take him? Are
No.
you going to? No, you won't. Because if he delays, you also get delayed. Because in the
Mhm.
same way, you just can't tell the airlines that can you guys take off at 10:30 a.m. because I will be half an hour late? No way.
No.
Right. Now what's happening here is that the start time of the flight is dictating when you should finish arriving at the airport. That is 7 a.m. So finishing at the airport is dictating when you should start at from your home. So your start time is dictating to the cab driver's time that you should finish arriving at the client's home at 6 a.m. So which is more important? Your start time, is it not? So your start time is 6 a.m. So that is
Mhm.
controlling his finish time. So his finish time is prior to 6 a.m. maybe 5:50, 9:59. Okay, so he must finish arriving you at your doorstep before your start time. So your start time is controlling what? It is controlling the finish of the arrival time of the cab driver. Right or wrong?
Mhm.
So that's why we say that it is a start to finish relationship. The start time controls the finish time. Right. So you would have such situations in the project and which are there. Okay, you would just only have to just look around. So can you give me any example where you think that you have a start to finish relationship in the project?
So say if I have window frames to assemble in my like a finished apartment, but then the windows that are being delivered at the site are assembled somewhere else. So they need to reach the site before I can start assembling.
Yeah, if your assembling date is fixed, so the guy who's doing, I mean someone who is assembling the windows, he should finish.
Exactly.
Okay, yes, so that's a start to finish. And the start to finish could be like this. Suppose if you need an expert's help. Now this expert is usually is on a different site. Okay, so he agrees to come and help you. He says that okay, I'll be coming on 26th of October and I need these inputs. Okay, So what you are going to do, you are going to finish working on those inputs required by him before his arrival date,
Correct.
is it? So that's because his start time is fixed, and his start time dictates that when you should finish so that his inputs are available. So it means that the finish time is being controlled by the start time of the needing of these inputs. So that is the start time of the specialist. Okay, so the subject matter expert tells you that he is going to start on 26th and you must be finished before 26th. So you can be finished before 26th, so it could be 25th or 24th or whatever. But it should not be beyond 26th, because then it's going to
Yeah.
delay the project. Because then it's not going to work for him, because the time will be wasted waiting for the inputs to come.
True.
Okay, so that is the start to finish kind of relationship. Okay, so these are the four possible relationships. So most common, finish to start, next common, start to start, and next finish to finish, and then start to finish. So I believe that you can set up all these kinds of relationship as per the requirement to have a compact and realistic project plan.
Correct.
Okay, so can you do it? Have you done this on the screen, or would you like to just
Yeah.
do it? Just configure it and see, and tell me if there is any problem, if you have any doubt here.
I've been doing it with you though. So
Okay, good. And what about you, Merlin? You have also done the same?
I haven't done this one particular with you, but I've used these relationships before.
Okay,
On a
fine.
grid.
So,
Yeah.
okay, fine. So, basically, you have learned to set up a group and milestone and set up the proper relationships. Okay, and so tomorrow we will focus on the calendar, that how we can
okay.
use the calendar. But before we go, I want you to show you something which didn't show you before, because now you will be able to grab it. See, if you want to set up a group, you can use this. Do you see on the under the task menu you have this? It's a
Uh-huh.
sort of a ready-made template. Okay, if you click on this, it puts up a summary task. Okay, it puts up a summary task and a new task. It is just a template. So you can set up a new set of a summary task very quickly. Okay, if you want to indent. Okay, if you want to indent, so you can set it up very quickly. Okay, you say summary and it just sets up. Okay, so you say summary X, Y, Z. So task 1, then you say task 2, you say task 3. So, this is just good for doing something very quickly with a summary task. So you don't have to indent or something. So you can just insert, okay, and then you can set up the summary task here. So then you can set, okay. And what is a milestone task? So basically a milestone task is a task with zero duration, which is only used as a marker to achieve something. So if you want to insert a milestone, wherever you need, you can use it. So these two are the templates. Okay, these two are the templates. Okay, so that's all for today, and tomorrow we will go over to the just a couple of more task related discoveries, and then we will move on to the calendaring part of it, the scheduling part. That how then I will provide you an exercise which you can do. Then on the third day we will move on to the printing, viewing, and then tracking the progress. Okay, so is that fine, guys? Any questions till now? So
That
you know how
sounds
to
good.
start a project, file new, and okay, just like any other Microsoft software, the abbreviations, the shortcuts are the same. If you say Control N, it will also create a new file. If you say Control S, it will save the current file like this. Okay, I say Control S and it saves the file. If I do a Control Z, it will undo, but it won't undo after you have done Control S, because when you do Control S, you have told Microsoft Project, look, I'm fine with the changes till this point, you save them. So once you have saved something, they cannot be undone. You can undo something which you have not saved. Okay, so you do Control Z only if you have something to undo. If you don't have something to undo, no, it's not going to undo. If you want to redo something, so undo and redo, they are going to work before Control S. So keep in mind Control undo, Control Z, Control redo, Control Y. Same as in the other. Control N, new file, Control S to save the file, Control P, print preview. Okay, so these are the shortcuts, and similarly Control C, Control V, Control C for copy, Control V for pasting. I say Control C, then I say Control V. So it just paste. And if I want to cut something, I just select the whole row. I say Control X,
Control X.
and then I say Control V. So the whole row, it just comes up here. Okay. So the I can say insert the row. I say Control X, and then I can say insert and insert task. So it gets pasted here. So Control X and Control V, they work in the same way. So all these things are the shortcuts which are relevant. And tomorrow we will start with the calendar part of it. Okay. Okay, fine. So if you have questions, just note it with you, and you can ask me as before we start. Okay. So see you at the same time tomorrow.
Okay.
Just a Berlin question for you. Where are you? Where are you located? And what's your time? Local time?
I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and it's
Oh,
10 o'clock at night.
okay, 10 o'clock at night. I hope it's not too late for you. Okay, good,
No, no,
good.
it's fine.
Okay, okay. So,
Okay,
so have a nice.
okay.
Okay, good night. Thanks.
You too. Okay,
Okay,
bye-bye.
okay, okay. Good night.